Oh,
This is session 1, introduction to Galadnet, because we met Kitty last time.
Who's right under you?
Yeah, they didn't go far.
Why is it not loading?
Like a dog waiting for a treat. Stay. Stay. No, stay.
Oh,
Wow, that's a lot bigger than I expected it to be.
Alright.
I didn't realize there were cops.
I'm gonna turn this So, ladies and gentlemen, last week of the jury. Last week, we left off with the lot of you headed on up towards Galadnet Keep. Where you were to meet Feanor, who's apparently the elf in charge of the area. You were sent there on behalf of Ugorum, and 4 out of the 6 of you don't look like you. But
And we're all 5'11".
all of them are 5'11". Faye is a purple-skinned tiefling. Toes, you're a weird-looking green elf. Yep. Twiggy, you have a green shirt, but you're a blonde human. And Slaker, you are a blue half-orc.
Is it not?
Currently, the lot of you are you are at 71 bodies of sheep on the wall.
Oh god, I forgot that.
It's been a few weeks.
And yeah, you're making your way towards past the center of town to get to the keep. Along your path, there is tons and tons of buildings and people, most of which are some kind of labor or craftsmen. It seems like this is mostly a kind of working town out in kind of the middle of the wooded area of Galadnet. As far as things go, as you continue along your way, you make it towards the town square, wherein there appears to be a small courtyard that's kind of surrounded by a couple of stands for merchants, and then one very large church that kind of, it's very Gothic in its architecture. As far as medieval times, it's a little bit more forward and a lot taller than some of the other temples and stuff that you might have seen outside of larger cities. The other thing is that it's very dark, as far as like white marble with kind of this black outline coloring scattered instant amongst everything, with pieces of granite kind of scattered about. It seems it's almost cobbled together of different pieces and parts in order to make this fully functional structure. That said, as you continue along your way, the road kind of twists and turns until eventually you make it to a larger inner wall, and then just on the other side appears Galadnet Keep, which has large marble struts with what looks like more wooden kind of outlining structure that has either been added as an addition to the building or is additional reinforcement. You're not quite sure what parts are what. It seems like this is definitely a town that's kind of in progress everywhere you go, where there's construction happening here or there, either because it's older woodwork that needs to be replaced, or it's something where they're tearing down something old and putting up a new thing in its stead. That said, as you approach the wall on the inside of the city that separates the town itself from the keep proper, you do notice that there are a couple of guards standing in between. What do you guys do?
So, I'm sorry, where are we trying to get to?
Galadnet Keep. So you're trying, at least when you first came in, you were trying to get to the keep so that you can meet with Feanor on behalf of the old wizard.
Didn't we have someone going with us?
You had someone that said they would be along with you shortly. That was Sturgis Thoroughbred, the guy with boots for hands.
Oh yeah.
That guy who's got feet for hands, not hands for feet. It's very inconvenient. Anyway, so that's
Brilliant.
who said he would be accompanying you, but he wouldn't be there for a minute because he had to finish up prior engagements before he could catch up.
So you said now we're approached by 2 new guards?
They're just standing. You guys haven't made it through the gate of the keep wall. Hello?
Pizza time.
Sweet Jesus.
Spider time.
I swear, every time it's earlier than it says on the thing. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Yay! Well, say hello to the stream.
He just fell down the stairs. Are we pizza breaking right now?
No, I was just setting it up so that it can smell good, I guess.
Big C's around
Anyway.
here.
So, give me that letter. With the seal.
No. Oh, right. That's right. We were using it as other things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Thanks.
Just don't
Welcome to
open
the
it.
guys.
It's special.
Wait, who's this from? What's his name?
Ugorum.
Thank you. I'm gonna walk up to the guards.
Yeah, because he's a chick now.
Hello, my party and I here on our official business from Ugorum. We need to get through. Here is a letter with a sealed. Please don't break the seal.
Okay. One of the 2 guards, he looks a little bit younger, and he's just got like a small metal cap and a spear. He's just kind of standing there, like across the way from you, just watching you talk to clearly the veteran of the 2 of them. The better half of this duo kind of looks you up and down, and it looks as if life has not been kind to this gentleman. He's got a very large burly beard. It's this kind of matted red hair with what looks like a large scar over one of his eyes.
Hey, I too have a large scar over one of my eyes.
He looks at you and he's like, life's cruel that way, isn't it? So, you've got a letter? I had a letter once. It's a long time ago.
Which letter?
It's a great question.
A, B.
He looks at you and with only the one eye open, he looks at you. He's just like, well, the letter I'm thinking of was from me pa. Chop off me arm when I was but a wee lad, but thankfully the healers in town were able to fix it. Hoping it doesn't fall off again anytime soon.
Yeah, I would hope. It's unfortunate.
What did you want?
I'm gonna say, it's unfortunate. At least I can use my cool eye, but I have, for picture reference, I have 3 giant scars on the side of my face.
Mhm.
I look at them and be like, but you won't believe, when I'm sleeping sometimes, get a little itchy, and that's a good scrape up right there, and I show my claws. Just, it wasn't very pleasant.
It's good to know you don't trim your nails either. There are a lot of people that make fun of me for that. They kick me sometimes in the middle of the village square.
Why don't
Usually at dark.
Why don't you trim your nails?
Well, about 20 years back, I had a bad experience with the clippers. Lost a toe. It's okay though, I got it back, but it's in a jar now.
And you are the one
What?
in charge here.
Oh, I'm just on guard duty. Well, what was it that I needed to assist you with?
Let us through.
Yeah.
Alright, what is your, you said you had a letter?
Letter right here, still have it.
Okay.
Don't break the seal, please. Are you drunk? Wait,
No.
Slaker wouldn't know that. Never mind.
What? Oh,
I gotta pull up my notes.
he just eyes over the letter. He just eyes over the letter closely with his good eye. He's just like, if I knew what diabetes was, I'm sure I'd have it. Yeah, he gives it a once over, and then hands it back to you. He's like, yep, you should be all fine. Go ahead and make sure you don't cause any trouble. Feanor will see you after the queue is done.
We never cause trouble. And I give him a wink with my scarred eye. And then I just walk past him.
I used to wink once.
Now I just blink.
He starts rambling into
The
another story
story
about
shows
something
about
upsetting.
And I just kind of wave at him and keep
Still
walking
looks
with
fine.
Slater.
Yeah,
Cool,
Faye and Zion follow along quietly behind as well. Alright, what do you two do?
I'm going to the castle, or the king.
Okay.
What's their goal? We got a mission.
So as you guys approach the main gate, there's guards that are kind of patrolling the general area. The inner wall of this kind of keep outlier, separate of the town, seems to be very well kept. There are lots of flowers that are kind of in bloom. What trees there are seem to be kind of cut and trimmed to be very shapely and very kind of pristine, almost like if fake plants existed, it would seem as if they were so well kept that they don't even seem like they're living functional trees, but
Slater comments, now that's just unnatural.
as you enter into the main gate, you can see there is just this larger hall that is made up mostly of this marble kind of flooring. Up ahead of the hall, it kind of shifts to the right where you're led to this much larger kind of almost waiting area that may or may not sometimes be turned into some kind of more festive area with lots of windows kind of shining in. You could easily see there being like a smaller ball of sorts, but this is clearly not like the end stop. This might be where more common folk kind of sit or have their duties dealt with accordingly with anybody serving under Feanor. That said, there are a couple of small archways, and then it looks like there's one or two people that are kind of just sitting in line, kind of patiently waiting. Occasionally you'll see a guard kind of roam up and down the hallway. So,
What are we here for?
To see family? Is that in game or just in general?
Probably in game.
The other guy, you got him. Told us. Come here. Is there anybody near me? Like a guard, someone in earshot that would not be the party?
I mean, the hall is a little bit echoey, but
It's like whispered.
they're not near you. It's just they're kind of like, if you wanted to use this room as an example, there's a couple people sitting against a wall way down there, but they're kind of like keeping to themselves. They're not really talking
I'm just
to each
gonna
other.
break the voice and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. we're looking for Feanor. He's like an elf dude or some shit. Feanor. Yep.
Feanor.
Yep. It's like
Like-
Fey
Nor.
or Nor.
Like the Fey wild, but with Nor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feanor!
The two at the end of the hall kind of go,
I just look at them.
one of them is clearly like, she easily is not of age, maybe 10 years old or something like that, that's sitting by herself. The person next to her seems to be like maybe early 20s. They're not sitting directly next to each other, they're kind of spaced out. It seems like they're both waiting for whatever process. The one in his 20s has like thick black curly
there
hair.
Guards or anybody of authority?
There's some that kind of patrol to and from.
Is there a doorway?
Yeah, there's the archway that is kind of across from where the two are sitting.
Well, let's go. And I start walking towards the doorway.
Okay. As you approach the archway, you can see that there's a very large set of double doors that are a lot larger than the ones that you entered into this keep with. These ones appear to be much more heavy duty, if that makes sense. So,
Can I try and push them open?
yeah, sure, you can try.
Strength?
Sure. You go to, if you're just trying to open a door, you go to push on it, it seems like it's not budging.
Say here, let me help. And I shove Slaker into the door, trying to push both of them. The door and Slaker.
It would definitely appear that these are locked.
Can I pull them?
They still appear locked.
I think they're locked.
Yeah, wait.
You, as you guys are kind of pushing and stuff, one of the patrolling guards comes by and is like, "Oi! You'll have to wait in line."
What is line?
You lot explain it, because I'm not going to.
Don't do that to me.
So basically, a line is a figure of speech.
Are you alright, ma'am?
Why do you ask?
You sound a little shrill. Do you need, like, a cup of water or something?
Or see, we're singing trope, and I've thrown my voice across the hall.
I didn't know you threw out your voice, but what do I know? I'm not a singer. Alright, I'll go fetch one of the servants to get you some water.
Oh, yeah, servants, those are always very nice. We'll go get in line.
Before you leave, how do we get to Feanor?
You have to wait until it's your turn, and then...
What is turn?
It's another figure of speech. I'll explain it into line.
Alright. And with that, he kind of motions for you to sit down. Faye and Zion just kind of compliantly
Good. You hold.
NPC along while the
stay
guard
there.
goes away to go fetch some servants to get some water.
So what is this line?
And with that, let's take a break.
Okay, I was like, I had nothing planned.
Come up with a short summary of what you bullshit.
Quite simple.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna go invade your kitchen and find things.
You're like our bodyguard, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
Oh, that's right.
For this scenario. For scenarios.
Scenarios?
There's another
Hey, give me a
reference.
denarius and I'll tell you about a scenario.
I'll tell you about this Targaryen.
Wasn't Zion like our groupie or something?
Probably. Sounds it.
Probably, yeah, really.
Scion the group. Silver.
Everybody group sigh on the groupie.
David says hi, by the way.
Who's the,
Yay!
Hi, David. Tell him to get over here.
John Doe.
He's not coming.
Do it!
What's he up to? Living
Tell
in
him
the
anyway.
He just got back from his trip.
Oh yeah. Where'd he go again?
Seattle and then Dallas.
Yeah, that's
pass.
right. That's dope.
He's got like 8 absences, which, considering how often we meet, is like 4 months worth of not being here.
Yeah.
Cameron's doing what again? Is she working?
She's like, my wisdom teeth hurt. I'm like, well, set up a dentist appointment so you can come to D&D, you dingus.
Yeah, why did your teeth
That's
hurt?
basically what I said.
We play with or without teeth, alright?
Yeah,
We
why
play
would you
with
hurt?
Teeth optional.
Yeah.
Teeth are optional. That's what you want to
Sometimes.
eat.
Right, we got liquids, don't worry about it.
We got liquids.
Like, blend out the pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Happy Meal you ate in high school.
Oh, I heard you say that. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like,
When you sit on it quickly, it goes
okay.
like it's wincing in pain.
Or it's just exasperated.
Mm-hmm.
How to get it.
Another person.
Yeah, another but another day.
Everyone just thinks they can sit on it. How's that garlic treatment?
It's good.
I don't think I would let it. This can't
Free.
boy,
It's good.
Surprised you heard from David. I don't hear from him at all.
Alright, Grayson.
Oh.
Super quick
See,
trivia
man, he
round.
doesn't respond to text. What?
Quick trivia round.
Yes.
Who are you going to see? First question.
Ghostbusters.
No. Not
Okay.
Ghostbusters. Who are you going to see?
Valinor.
You
Valinor.
failed. Alright, next question. Who sent you?
It starts with a Y.
No.
Yarg or something.
Also incorrect.
Is that where we came from?
Sweet Jesus. Alright. Where did you come from?
Isn't
Where'd
that
you
the
go?
thing that starts with a Y?
Okay, still
Yeah.
failed. Next question.
Well, these all count
What did you
as
pass on the way into the keep?
The guard.
Okay, before the guard.
It's a building.
Oh, the townspeople's houses. Looks like a working town. You know, mills, smith shops, things like that.
Okay, what was the big thing that I was
Oh, yeah,
describing for like a
clouds.
minute?
That was it, but it was like a working class town.
Okay, besides the working class town, what did I describe for like a hot minute?
People what?
And they pray in it.
The church?
Yeah.
What's it look like?
Oh, it was Gothic in style, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go. You get half a point. Alright, so out of 5 points,
My
5.5.
God. Not doing, no.
Clearly.
The animals in this house have some issues.
Which one?
Yes.
Harvey, the dog who's terrified of everything?
And the
Or-
bird that won't stop.
And Artemis, the just wonderful gem of a cat.
And the snake that apparently exists.
Oh yeah, we have a snake. It just lives upstairs and sits in a
What'd
cage.
you bring?
And it's-
Nice. Makes it easy.
And then there's the fish, whose half of his face is rotting. That's Dax.
Yeah, you guys really have some.
We're 2 animals short of a zoo.
Really?
We
No,
need
no,
a-
no. You don't have a marsupial.
We need a we need a pet invertebrate and a pet amphibian, and we'll have one of every type of animal.
You don't have a
What about
marsupial.
badgers?
Marsupial falls under mammals. Shut the fuck up.
Do you or do you not have a marsupial?
We did.
They
Yeah.
have a
mouse.
mammal.
Those are marsupials.
Also, do you have a rodent?
Yeah, those are rodents, not marsupials.
Which are mammals, and yeah, we did for a minute. Actually, fun fact, we had a rat as a pet.
As a pet? Okay.
Yeah.
Did it die like a week
And what
ago?
happened?
No, we gave it away.
Oh.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe because we're 2 animals short of a zoo.
Sounds like you're giving up.
We have a lot of animals in this house.
Dude, you could be Matt. You're 2 animals away from being Matt Damon.
I didn't buy it. I just live with it.
If you buy one, you say we bought a zoo.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. What an excellent title.
So what is line?
Hold on. Hey, Twiggy. This one for you.
Oh, a line, as Toa said, is a figure of speech that represents a state of being where you are awaiting something, like your right to the throne, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
At least Twiggy's honest.
Yeah. And your turn is when everybody in the line begins spinning around you. And then you know that your time in the line is over and you've moved on to the turn. Sometimes it takes forever to get to the turn.
In other news, Grayson got a 10% on his in-house trivia of the last 10 minutes.
I can't remember these made-up names immediately. It's been how many weeks since
You
we
almost remembered one description. The problem that I have is that I shouldn't say the problem I have. The problem you have is that I literally repeated all of the names in this
You
section prior to, with the exception of the where you came from.
You did, but I was like, we'll find them anyway. I'll just they'll know what I'm talking about. I'll say something that sounds close to it.
Slater, there is a secondary definition of line. Okay. So you
Involves
have to know this
cocaine.
one too, just in case. That one we're not going to tell Slater.
Oh.
Anyways, there is one that has
There's a
to
thing
do
called
with
narcotics.
sometimes people will say a line to you if they want to be spawned by you. And so there's like a 10%
Please
chance
don't
that
do
that
this.
guard wanted to be spawned by you.
Please don't do this.
You said the word line is for spawning,
It can be in some contexts.
but just 10%?
Is this that context? It's a 10% chance every time. 10% chance.
Every time.
You'll have to find out.
Somebody says lines 10% every time.
Yep.
Is it stack?
Only if it's the same person.
Oh. So we go, say line 10 times.
Then
100%.
that's 100% chance that they want to be spelled.
Okay. Just gonna drop that word from my vocabulary.
How are you? How are you?
Jesus, right in.
I just remembered.
Lucky for you,
I like to imagine Zion's just sitting next to Faye and looks over at her and just goes, "Whose line is this anyway?"
That was a lame joke.
Is it time for pizza?
I turned to Zion and I said, Wayne Brady's.
Alright.
So what if I don't want to be in a state of awaiting? Well, put yourself in a different mental state. You've lost me. Well, that's a mental state, so you've done it. Lost count.
So, as a lot of you are sitting in line, the next two people, one after the other, the 10-year-old goes in and then comes out later on down the line. Then, eventually the 20-something goes in and then exits the building following. And then one of the guards walks up to you and says, "Alright, after you," and motions to the door. And as the guard approaches the door, you can hear this very loud as if it's kind of this mechanism behind the door before it slowly opens up. As you enter in, you can see that there's two very large kind of metal reinforced doors on either side of the hallway leading into this immense great hall where there's candles and a couple of balconies. There's a massive immaculate rug with lots of different colors and adornments and whatnot. On the far side you can see like this kind of wooden and stonework throne of sorts where at the very top of the kind of steps up to the throne you can see an elf just kind of sitting sideways in the chair, 1 foot up and then 1 foot down. He has this very large, magnificent kind of cloak on and very long blonde hair. He seems very kind of disinterested with the world at large. You can see just a little bit in front of him, over to the side, there is this short black-haired woman who is kind of like talking his ear off a little bit almost. And he seems to be very disinterested with everything that she has to say. That said, as you guys are kind of led to the front, he looks off like side-eye and goes, "Alright, who are you lot?"
In search of Feanor.
That's him. I am here. Hello.
Hey, hello.
Greetings.
So, was this
Twiggy.
Was this
I
letter
don't
for
care.
him or for us?
That's fair.
So, what do we do now? We've gotten here.
We, first off, I just want to say, I like your rug. It really ties the room together.
Funny joke.
Maybe
He's
we
like,
get one of those.
he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Comes from far off lands. Anyway, what brings you all here?"
You Gorham.
Our feet.
He actually kind of perks up a little bit. He's like, "Oh, You're the ones I sent for. Thank God you're here. Oh my goodness. Alright.
Wait, you sent for us, we were sent for you.
Well, I asked you going for somebody. Apparently it's you lot. Anyway, thank goodness you're here because I have this fine young woman who is looking for help investigating a
Strong
matter.
boulder?
What?
Investigating a matter. She's half orc, I'm assuming she doesn't understand the word I'm saying.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
with regards to our situation, apparently Dorothy is looking for something at the edge of town. Apparently there's someone harassing people or the likes. I don't know. I don't really care. Anyway, you guys go with her. Guards, escort them out.
Well,
And then-
you were just a delight. Such a
Yep.
valiant leader.
Yep. So,
No, I say that to him. Oh yeah, I said it to him.
that's fair. Anyway, a couple of guards surround the lot of you and just start to walk you out alongside this young woman with a kind of collared dress of sorts with the short black hair. As you guys make it outside, she just looks at the lot of you just kind of like, you have no idea what it's like to kind of try to get him to do anything of value in this town. I swear, it is the worst in the town. Anyway.
I bet I could convince him.
Probably not. So, nice to meet the lot of you fine ladies and the two gentlemen. I'm assuming the short one's a man. My name is Dorothy, Dorothy Kilgallen. I'm kind of the journalist of sorts of this kind of area.
No, what?
Or the squire.
Journalist. I write down
What's your last name?
I was once a
Kilgallen.
squire.
Kilgallen. Anyways, my job is basically just to do kind of town news and scrying, and if there's anybody that needs to, shout whatever, I'm usually the one that provides some kind of a script. Anyways,
What's that down? It's called? Sorry.
Galadoneh, Galadoneh. I'm not reciting that from memory, but like low-key I'm reciting it from Anyway, she looks at the lot of you and is just like, so anyways, I've been here for a couple of weeks now, and supposedly there is this, like, iron-faced person off in the distant part of town that lives near Skull Island. It's kind of in the middle of the moaning pool. And there's some weird rumors surrounding it, and it's something that whenever I hear a good rumor, I have to, track it down and whatnot. But that said, because it's kind of outside of the city's jurisdiction, Feanor, on top of his usual stuff, is definitely not interested. But in addition to that, I can't just go out alone, so I was hoping for some kind of help. Ideally, it would have been Townsguard, because then I would have been in empty of his hair and no problem, but he sent word out for somebody to assist instead, so I guess that is the lot of you.
Well, I, for one, am excited. What
Nice
did you
to
say
meet
your
you.
name was?
Dorothy.
I'm gonna call you Fletch.
And what do I
Anyways.
call you?
Twiggy.
Twiggy?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Twiggy. Dorothy.
Fletch.
Alright. And the rest of you guys, what are your names? Zion's just like, like haphazardly.
Let me
like,
translate. That
like
was
the
Zion.
limp handshake. She basically like squeezes it really firmly, and he goes. Feel like
Careful,
that's
he's a
pretty
little
good
sensitive.
character. My apologies. Although you do have to work on your handshake a little bit, at least in this part of town. The rest of you?
Rachel.
Rachel. Rachel. Nice to meet you, Rachel. Dorothy.
Rachel.
She gives you a very
Rachel.
fervent handshake.
Strong hands.
Sometimes a girl's got to get into a little bit of dirty business in order to get to the scoop in town.
Sometimes girls should get interested into tieflings. Bad ones.
My sister, she's a little strange.
Yeah, she just looks at you and is just like,
She says the weirdest comments sometimes.
yeah, I don't know very many
I thought
elves
that
that are
was
into
me.
tieflings, but
What?
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
you
you
are
are.
trying to do that.
uh,
Oh, another free game. What was it called?
Faye
Probably was like a royal.
Faye is threatened by this oncoming fast talker.
Oh god.
Maybe.
Oh, God.
Probably.
Faye just
Why would
looks
you
at her
trust
and
me?
just like, I don't like you. It doesn't even introduce her name. Alright.
And
What's your name, sir?
I am Jan.
Jan. Sir Jan?
Yes.
The reason I asked if you're sir or not is because you seem of a higher order.
Indeed.
Might I ask what order you're from? She pulls out a little pen and paper. A quill.
The Asimar.
That's your people, but what's your order?
Well, I am no longer part of an order.
Formerly, what were you a part of?
Yes.
Was it a easy split, or was this something that was long awaited? What happened with that?
It was rather dramatic. It's too much to recount for a briefing.
Well, you know what? How about a different day? We'll schedule it. And then she goes to shake your hand.
My people
She has
call your people.
about as solid grip as you do.
Very
Alright.
good.
And then the half orc, full orc.
You know, I'm not quite sure.
Interesting. And what might your name be?
Slaker.
Slaker. Excuse me. Nice to meet you, Slaker.
I'm
Name's
gonna
Dorothy.
go for as firm as I can. If I break her hand, that's okay.
Okay.
Give me a good roll strength.
I mean, if you're intentionally trying to break her hand.
Yes.
Okay.
She's intentionally squeezing as hard as she can.
She breaks Slaker's hand.
That's quite a grip you've got there.
Low key, if she rolled a little higher, she might have. She meets you head on with the full strength, and in fact squeezes it so that it's a little painful on your end. She's
I like her.
I do too.
That means
Okay.
a lot in this circle.
Or Captain Marvel. I like this one. Anyway.
The worst line
I
in the
know.
whole movie.
I almost lost it right there.
You did lose it.
Okay, a little bit, yeah.
Anyway, so if you guys don't mind, I'll and she pulls out a small pair of glasses and puts it on to flip through some of her notes, and she's like, well, it's getting a little late into the afternoon, so I don't think we have enough time to go to Skull Island today. It's a little bit of a ride to get there and back, on top of trying to dig around and see what's going on while we're out there. I want to at least leave a couple of hours worth of time, so in the meantime, might I give you a brief show around the town and just, I guess, give you a whereabouts of Palatinate?
Have any good restaurants around here?
You know what? There's a couple of places where there's some food.
You have a whole purse full of food.
But that's for the road. We're in a town.
Well, to be fair, at least she's prepared. As far as food around town, there's a couple of different spots, but the most well known is probably Nathaniel Famous's sandwich shop. They have.
Okay, continue.
They have apparently he's a little bit in tune with more of the alchemical arcane arts, so they have lots of apparently foot-long sandwiches that they sell there.
I am highly interested.
Yeah, if you want my opinion, the food's not bad. It could be worse. I guess it might just be part of the baking process. No one really knows how it's done
And meat.
precisely. There is meat. The one thing that I'll say is kind of a misnomer is it's labeled a sandwich shop, but it's actually more like a cart. I don't really know why they call it a shop, but there you go. Nathaniel Famous, he kind of wheels around town. For the most part, at this time of day, he might be packing up in the merchants area and going more towards the craftsmen's lot, because lots of the merchants and craftsmen will kind of finish up with, you know, whatever customers might be traveling through, and then get back to their normal duties if they don't just go on break immediately. But yeah, that's more
Well,
towards
like,
the north
let's
side of
find
town.
this Nathaniel and his sandwiches.
Very well, Miss Twiggy.
Like, let's go
Funny.
get
Miss Twiggy.
to the sandwich shop.
Is Punch a human?
Let's go to the
Oh.
Is
sandwich
Punch a
Yeah,
human?
she's human.
I love how you adopted that.
Yeah. So, so she starts leading you through the town, and she gives this ridiculous kind of oral tour of like, over here is the barber. His name is Sports. He
Does he clip things?
yeah, he's a barber. What do you expect? And then over on the other side, there's Craig, the Violet's potion vendor. A lot of people call him the cool goo alchemist. It's a very strange process. Goo.
Like he makes goo.
Like, well, they're Violet's potions, but it's still liquid, but the liquid is like, I don't know what else to explain other than it ripples like water,
Is
but
it safe to touch?
yes. I don't know. I think it kind of depends on the potion as far as like actually ingesting it, but for the most part they seem safe.
What
That's
do
my
you
understanding. They're normal potions. It's just they're not solid, but they're not liquid either. I mean, they're vials. They don't have an actual glass container. I don't understand how he does it, but it's quite fascinating. I think he cools it to some extent. Anyway, and that's why they call it the cool goo alchemist. Anyway, over here is Grover. He is Grover's is a tavern for visitors such as yourself. At least it's the one that I would recommend that's in town. Grover himself is he's some form of tree folk. Very, very old, but he is a little slow in his dealings, so it might take a little bit to warm up to him or not, but I assure you he is one of the kindest people and also very, very informative, which is probably what I like people want. Anyways, so that's Grover's. As you guys pass by the large, kind of cobbled together, decrepit church, she points to it and goes, so this is what's known as the Bone Church. It's led by the high priest Kazul, the decomposer. Apparently they're a little bit more into necromantic stuff, but they do host services for other religious organizations that are kind of scattered throughout the town. We do have multiple denominations for anybody that's not like goblinoid, for instance. I know that they have their own chain of deities that, I'm sure if I go through my notes I'll find it, but that's kind of the low brow of the church. They're quite pleasant, but it does stink sometimes, and I've never asked why. Not yet, at least.
You didn't just experience it?
No. I haven't been here for very, very long. Just a couple weeks. Well, I'm looking at other things, and apparently it seems like the town is fine with the necromancer at the Bone Church, but I'm not sure if there's more to be had there, less to be had there. I haven't looked into it yet. All I know is that Kazul doesn't really like me, and I don't really like him. And anytime that I kind of dig into a matter, he kind of like gives me a soft warning. It's just like, hey, you should probably stop what you're doing. You're going into matters that are above your head, to which I say, the only way that we're going to find the truth is by digging in a little bit more, so
Do you
we
need me
just
to take
kind
care
of,
of him for you?
well, like murder him?
No, just there's
Oh,
him. And,
no,
you know.
I mean, if at some point later down the line you feel inclined to talk, feel free, but
No, we're not talking eat.
I don't know if you would want to do that. I think he's mostly rotten. Anyway, at minimum it's his soul. At maximum, he might actually be rotten flesh under that priest robe. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't think she'd mind it.
I don't really
Rotten
like
is a
As
little
for these
pushy.
other religions, They do Lirin.
Lirin? I believe they do. Flip, flip, flip.
Oh, it's not Don't ask questions.
Yeah,
about it.
they do host a couple of people from Leyra. It seems like there's only 2 people that really follow her in this line of town, or at least that have come forward about it. But they might be second guessing themselves, or I don't quite understand what they're on about, whether or not they do or don't follow Leyra or someone else.
Oh, yes, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Do you happen to know their whereabouts?
I think last they said that they were craftsmen, but I've seen them hanging around more of the merchant area.
Okay.
I don't know, they kind of float around. At least the 2 that I know of. Apparently there's more, according to the guards, but they said they haven't seen some of them for a while.
Just a reminder, I haven't
complicated.
got my glass of water. My voice is just a little raspy.
That's really awkward, I'm sorry about that, but I'm sure Nathaniel's has something for you.
Speaking of which, how far are we?
Just a little bit further. If you want, I can tell you about one more store, and then we'll practically be there.
How about who is the strongest person in this town?
By muscle, by...
She is now known as.
Can you get me something random? That's not straight liquor.
Sure.
That's a random fact,
Anyways, so she points out one more building off to the side. Sorry.
Good answer.
She points off one more building off to the side. Oh, what'd you say?
Who's the strongest in the
Who's the
land?
strongest person in this city?
She asked physically or mentally?
Mentally. The
Boom.
most
Or spiritually?
Mentally.
I guess ooh.
Fintually.
That's a good question. I've heard Feanor has a good understanding of the powers of persuasion and a little bit into art games. There might also be the necromancer in the church. I mean, necromancers alone are very, very good as far as potent magics bringing the dead back to life and whatnot, but I wouldn't know specifically who's the strongest. Honestly, it could even be someone that's just passing through that is only here for a few days and then gone. Apparently you were sent by Ugorum, who's, she puts her glasses back on, flips. He's kind of in charge of Moonlit Top up to the north. He's very powerful from what I understand, very old as well. But as far as the most powerful, I can't say with certainty, but those would be my 2 immediate guesses if I were to have one. And then, yeah. So, to change subject back to the tour of the town, and she points off to the right, it's just like, this is Biotrart's hut. And Biotrart is a very, very sweet old man, but I will caution you, I wouldn't go into that store expecting to buy any of his pets, because he's a little bit of a loon. Just a little bit. Like,
What?
a loon. He's
It's
a
a
little
bird.
crazy in the head. What?
It's
He's a bird.
He's a bird.
He's not. He's crazy.
No, no, no.
Is
He's,
that?
no, he's just this crazy old. I'm pretty sure he's human. He might be half elf. I can't quite tell. He's got a little bit of hair that kind of covers the ears just a little bit, mostly balding. He's very sweet and affectionate, but he's very awkward about his purchasing process. That's at least what I've gathered from the locals. Anyway, now that I've given you at least some kind of a brief of the town, and she points ahead, and there is a small cart with a couple of wooden wheels, and just on the ground you can see a bunch of circular and triangular runes that they're not glowing, but they seem to be like 3-dimensional, and they're painted in red. And you can see this larger gentleman with like shoulder pads and some like weird gauntlet things with his gloves, with a very small curl mustache that's pretty burly, with a small white hat and a large white apron. it's not even, David's is like full French. It's like, meh,
Okay.
like, I don't even know how to describe it.
Oh, it's
19,
like the-
early 30s kind of
It
mustache.
sounds like Ali, or it's pretty long. Yeah.
Like the long.
It's not long.
I don't know if it's
Um,
silver, though.
Sure.
Nathan was part of his name. That was Richard Nathan, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh. Yeah, David's
Oh
old
my
character was
God.
Richard
He's
Nathan.
reincarnated.
That's the sandwich vendor.
No. Anyway, so you see him with what appears to be a bandolier with different condiments on it, with like ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard, and you can see him go like this with his fingers, and one of the ketchup bottles just flies out and starts spraying the ground to make circles and triangles, and then out of the ground you can see him like channeling red electricity into it, and then he sees a lot of you guys approach, and he's just like, "Ah, Dorothy, how are you? Oh my goodness, it's been some time. Who are these lot with you?" And she's like, this is Twiggy, Slaker, Yawn, Zion. I didn't catch this one's name. She doesn't seem to be very talkative.
Her name
And
is Nay.
Rachel, May,
Nay.
Lay,
Che.
Faye.
Nay.
Nay,
Tay.
Vay.
Nay. Watch
Tay.
her lip. Well, I'll be happy to get you anything for the right price, of course. What are you all looking for?
Your most popular sandwich.
And you can see him just crack his knuckles, and he's just like, "Oh, you're not ready for this one." And you see him like open up part of the gauntlet, and out comes a couple of buns, and very very long sandwich buns, and then out of the ground you just see this electricity kind of ephemerate into this large kind of black surface, and then out of the surface comes this very long sausage of sorts, and he puts it in between the buns, and he's like, "Hey, what? Nathan's famous foot-long sandwich."
Alright, I take it, and I shove as much of it as I possibly can into my mouth at the time. And begin
Roll,
chewing.
roll con.
Okay.
Roll con.
Nice.
Like partway into you biting, he's like, "Wait, don't you want anything on it?"
Like, is it in my mouth?
You haven't
So-
bitten into it yet, you just go, ugh.
Now I know I'm a purist.
My goodness.
He leans over to
Oh, shit.
Rachel.
Oh, shit.
He leans over to Rachel, and he's
You
like,
got
"By the way-"
95% of it.
By the way,
That
that's a
is
silver.
a mod 20.
Oh.
1 silver for the thing. I don't know if you're all together or if you're dining separate.
Oh, sure, look at the prettiest one and ask for money.
Well, she seems a little busy. You're intimidating.
Sure, let's
You're the strong type.
I'm
Yes.
literally just standing here.
Somebody call
Yeah, but you're a half orc.
Coin you.
Okay, I take one like out
There
of
you go.
my bag somewhere and just kind of like flip it over to Toes, like while I'm trying to eat the sandwich.
Can I
Okay.
reach over, take the sandwich, take a bite out of it?
Can I like slap in her hand as she's
I mean, she's holding it, so you'd have to
So, like,
like
slapping her
either
hand,
rip
but she
part
tries
of
to
it
grab
or
Yeah, I'll rip part of it.
she's
Okay.
slapping you.
I mean, I'm slapping her claw like to try and deter her, but
Yeah.
I'll
You're doing a
Absolutely,
David
just
style.
I'll-
pretty much, yeah. It's pretty
bring
effective.
out my I'll bring out my claws as I'm ripping it, so it's just like two hands with
So it
giant
just kind of
claws.
cuts it,
Yeah.
almost.
Alright.
All right, you just take out the center of the sandwich a little bit.
I'm gonna eat it.
What was that con roll? The
I
time
would
it
say
just
mod 20.
mod 20.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want, you can just
You got the whole thing in.
Yeah, everything
Practically
except
do-
for whatever she ripped off while I was going in.
You can practically just whoop straight down the gutter, but I don't know if you're like trying to taste it along the way, because you're only
Yeah.
really getting bread when it's
No, I am
held like
trying
this.
to taste it. I'm a purist, so
Uh-huh.
definitely chewing, but also going pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah. It's not terrible. It's not the best sandwich. It's a sideways sandwich. It's very weird.
Right.
That you've ever had, but it definitely it's flavorful. It's got this kind of beef or porky kind of flavor. You're not quite sure how much of either, and then it does have this weird kind of like almost chemically taste, just kind of on the back twinges of it. You're not quite sure if that's part of the weird magic that you watched in front of you or something else.
I'm gonna look at him and say, that was awful.
I swallow and I go, 3! And I just stand there.
Alright, and he just holds his hand out.
More?
No, I don't want more.
3 out of.
You asked me if I want more. I don't want more.
So the 3 out of 10?
Do you have anything better?
I'm gonna roll really quickly.
Very well.
He leans to Rachel and just like, must be one of the yelpers. Alright, what was that?
Do you have anything better?
Just be one of the squash.
Yeah, I would recommend putting condiments on it. It's what really makes or breaks the sandwich, in
No.
my opinion.
The sandwich should be able to hold up to the standards without condiments.
More meat.
Well, more meat I think I can do. The other thing is, when it comes to these sandwiches, like think like a Reuben. You don't just have the meat on a Reuben, you have the meat and some other things on top. So sauerkraut, a little bit of dressing of some form of variety. That's how you make a Reuben. And then you like toast it, and then if you want the bread to be a good consistency, you get some butter on that, something like that.
Well, if that is the way the sandwich is meant to be made, why didn't you make it that way?
Well, you kind of just took it. And then I asked if you wanted condiments, and then you were like, nah.
Because
Make
if you
me
had
the
to ask,
meatiest
it didn't
one.
come with them.
Make me the meatiest one.
Alright, that'll be 3 silver from you.
Excuse me.
Hand over like 3 more silver.
Excuse
Just
me,
like,
please,
like,
very generous. Oh, here you go.
I don't understand who's paying in this dynamic, but
It's okay.
whatever
oh
matters.
yeah, the money's all coming from
Make sure you're
these.
writing it off.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he puts it in his pocket. He's like, all right, everybody, just stand back a little bit.
You feel that?
And you see him spray more ketchup on the ground in this weird circular triangular form, and then out comes just a sausage maybe about this big, just straight from, and then as it's coming out, you can see him pulling out another bun or two to kind of catch it in midair, using that kind of electrical energy, and then once it gets on top, you see him reach into his other arm and just start laying out a bunch of different assorted items. Like, it looks like there might be more pieces of pork or bacon that's kind of being strewn on top. You see a small dash of ketchup. You see what looks like some pickled cucumbers on top of it, just kind of scattered in small slices. It comes out as a full cucumber, and then it just falls into the pieces. And then he's just like, all right, something with a little bit more meat.
Okay, as I go to
And it's
grab
basically
it,
just too long.
as I go to grab it, is there any way that I can like prick his hand and use the blood as a condiment?
Whoa.
That sounds like a lot of sleight of hand there, friend.
I'll try it. That's a 7.
You try to prick his hand. The problem is that A, it's so far up the bun that you kind of like miss. You fall short of it. And then second, on top of him not like physically holding it, like because he's motioning it towards you, but it's kind of floating on almost a boat of air to kind of pass it to you, so that it basically just doesn't touch his hands, which is neat in its own way. He looks to the rest of it. He's like, "Do any of the one of you want a sandwich or two, or the like?" I don't know what to call these, so we're just calling them Nathaniel's Famouses.
Do you have any regional specialty Nathaniel Famouses?
I mean, I have some onions. I would maybe recommend, and then
I'm thinking
some.
like tomatoes,
Oh,
peppers,
oh,
relish,
radish.
relish.
Relish. I mean, I can make relish. That's pretty easy. He pulls out a cucumber and just separates into a bunch of smaller pieces.
Pickle that?
It's pickled.
Okay.
Yeah. It comes out of the jar of vinegar.
Okay.
Just whoop. It's what happened with the last one, except the last one that Slaker got was in slices instead of relish, essentially. And then
Sandwich.
he also looks at you, he's like, As far as more regional things, I do have a more expensive item. I've been trying to see how it works and doesn't work, but I've been soaking some of them in some elvish wine. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I've also stuffed some of them.
How about blood? This doesn't have enough blood on it.
I mean, I can cook it for less time, and then it'll have more blood.
Sure.
Well, that one's as is. I'd have to make you a new one, which would be another 3 silver. If you want that one. Unless you want a smaller one with more blood?
I just want blood.
Just the blood.
Maybe squeeze some of the meat.
Yeah, like condiments.
Well, are you a medium, rare? Do you want it well done?
I prefer it to be cooked.
Rare. Not rare.
You're always going on about condiments. This needs blood.
As a condiment.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds a lot easier. I'll just count it as a. And he does his ritual, and out comes another strand of sausage, and then he basically just moves it over and just goes like this, and you see the electricity kind of flatten it out, and it just starts spurting it onto your thing, and then you see it back into the summoning circle thing, and it comes back out, and then now it's got a little bit of a grayer tone, and he sets it in a bun. He's like, "This is just a regular one, but cooked a little bit better." And then
So
relish.
happy.
What else were you looking for?
Tomatoes,
There you go.
A couple of tomatoes.
peppers,
Uh,
some poppy seeds.
Poppy seeds?
Something from Chicago, perhaps.
I-
Maybe in a different place in this
Oh,
I haven't heard about seeds on that. I don't have the seeds.
Well, trade information. I mean, I could help your restaurant.
I will keep an eye out for poppy seeds. You were
Yeah.
saying?
For Christmas
I haven't heard about that
Poppies.
on a sandwich. I thought that was the one that makes you sleepy.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's
That's
good.
Snoopy seed.
Anyway, I'll look into that on another time. But I can try to get you the rest of the condiments. So, what, tomato, peppers, those are easy. You see him take some of the ketchup out and then just kind of condense it, and then it becomes a tomato again, and slaps it on.
Oh my god.
The ramifications.
What is going on in that portal?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know.
Is there like a salt line that you use?
What?
Online.
Salt line.
Sandwiches.
A salt line?
A salt provider?
We put salt on my hot dogs.
Yeah, you put salt on it.
Oh,
I can
like-
salt your meat any time of the week.
Oh, that's good.
Whoop.
It's weird because he's a woman right now.
I know.
There you go. How much? Don't ask if you're not paid.
It's too,
Oh, good.
mainly for the tomatoes. Those are weird.
What's weird about them?
It's weird about a tomato in a sandwich, you famous Nathan.
Well, it's not that
You
it's weird as a
famous
condiment. It's that most of my customers ask for it in a mashed form in ketchup, but I can undo that process and make it a tomato again
Okay.
most of the time.
Okay.
What
Anyway,
happens
two
the other
silver.
I'm getting
times?
this one right down.
Turn it
Sweet
into a
corn
squash or something?
rice. 2 copper.
I will withhold that as a trade secret.
2 copper. Does this work?
What?
Did I mislead you? Does that count?
With 2 copper?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that gets by.
Oh,
nice.
On top of me physically being distracted, also, yeah, he doesn't have a clue. He's like, yep, 2.
Whoa.
Worthwhile sandwich.
So- zombie.
John disapproves.
Dorothy sees all.
Kill you.
Dorothy says all.
Say anything.
You are mistaken.
I feel like Slaker is so happy with his blood-filled sandwich that it's just sitting there going,
Just mesmerized by it. Orcs, What are you gonna do? Alright.
Fighting.
Do any of the rest of you want anything? No?
Well, I was hungry, but this is really my appetite.
Do you want a napkin?
Huh?
Pipe up? Napkin?
What is a
Towel.
napkin?
A
You clean yourself up
a
with
small
it?
square garment for
You wear it on your face when
For
you eat.
wiping, yes. Like a sash.
Yes.
Same thing too. And a coat. All the same.
Those are garments.
That's right.
Well, if there's nothing else I can do for you, I'll go ahead and pack up here and move on to the next
I
one.
might as well take a sandwich for the road.
Alright, what do you want on it?
You're the one that said it had to be prepared some certain way. Just do it the right way.
Alright, 2 silver.
Alright,
And he starts going
my
through
gold. I
a
need
gold?
change. I need change.
So he reaches into his pocket and it's like he counts out 98 silver, yeah. What kind of taste do you prefer? Are you a sweet kind of person, savory?
Savory.
Savory?
Yeah.
And,
Savorious.
I'm a little salty, some would say.
Savory and salty. And you see him summon another sausage, put a bun underneath it, and then you see him put a couple pieces of bacon. You see it's like a touch gray from cooking, but not as gray as Rachel's was. And then you see just a pinch of salt, some pepper, and then you see a couple of onions and a couple strings of what looks like mustard on the top. And it's just like, alright, there you are.
Alright, I take it, and again I try to eat the whole thing at one time. This is so
Come on.
good.
For the road.
For the road.
Yep.
We're standing on the road, aren't we?
You know, she's got a point.
That is a nat 20.
It's gone.
Alright. Was it better?
It was way better. It's insanely better by
Alright.
comparison. Like the chemicaliness of it is
Okay,
almost
just
not
like-
even there.
Yeah, we can.
Almost. It's still there, but like really faint.
Alright, I
We
take a
can
moment,
understand you,
and I look
Rochelle.
at Nathan. I say, it's pretty good. 3!
3!
Pretty good.
Well, I'll be ending on off, and then you just see him lift all the ketchup with a motion of his hand. It just flies off the ground and then like spins a little bit to like get all the dust and dirt, and it goes right back into the ketchup bottle, and then he just starts carting away.
I
to the
shout
next
after
corner.
him. I have to say, it was close to a 4 with that presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Dorothy has been like standing and talking with Zion
Oh, that's not good.
as much as she can, and Faye has just been kind of
She's been pretty bitter lately.
Pretty what?
Bitter lately?
I thought you said bigoted. I was like, oh my god.
Biddy. I was like,
Video?
biddies.
Like a
Video.
baby.
I thought she said bigoted.
No.
I was like, oh my god. Alright.
Like the water of the oceans.
So Dorothy looks at you and goes,
Nice.
so, well, now that Nathaniel's off to the next spot, if the lot of you are looking to stay in the town, you know my recommendation, I would go to Grover's. My house is set up just on the far corner. Is there anything I can help you with, or do you need anything to prepare for tomorrow? Or a lot of you look armed enough. I mean, you got here to Gladden it through the woods, I assume, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Let me know.
Oh, of course.
Well, you have gone through the woods at one point, right?
But yes.
Over the river and everything.
There we go.
And the
So,
lightning and the hippopotamuses. The
Teleport.
iron rod is pushing the rock. We're good.
Okay, we're good. We don't gotta recap or whatever you guys
you seem
went through.
scarred.
Right now.
What's on her
You might
face?
want to look
That's not very
into
nice.
that.
Yes, she
Mentally,
is.
not physically.
Oh.
Physically. you're
Mental.
No, I'm Dorothy. So, so anyways, do you guys need anything to prepare? Are you ready to travel maybe
How
a
far?
couple hours? It's
Yeah.
not very far. It's maybe 2 hours outside of town if you follow by the road.
Are we walking? Or
Likely.
swimming?
We would not be swimming, at least not until we get to the pond, where we may or may not swim to the island.
Do you have any swimsuit?
Do I?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
myself, yes.
That's good. We should go swimming.
Another thing I might try to do is have a boat arranged, but I would be doing that. You wouldn't have to worry about that.
A boat would
Business
be
expenses and whatnot.
appreciated. Yeah. Yes.
I would agree with you, but my husband was a little bit, and
Thanks, husband.
well, I'm a widow.
Oh, good.
Rachel.
Oh, I'm new to this land. I don't know. I'm green. Death is usually stopping.
She just looks at you and is like, you know what, I'm in complete agreement. He was a little bit more than an asshole for a very long time. I don't even go into his room anymore. I mean, he's just... Yeah. I mostly blame the alcoholism, but, you know, whatever. Anyways,
Did he talk to the sheep?
She said yes.
he counted sheep before he went to bed, so
Yes.
sure.
Makes sense.
Only I smell
Anyways, so...
It's like dark. I said it pretty quietly.
Only I spoke to sheep.
She heard sheep man at the end of it and just kind of shrugs it off. Like, oh, sheep man. Or something like that.
Sheep man?
Yeah, she's not she's not quite 100% paying attention. So she just looks at the lobby and goes, anyway, so if you guys don't need anything else, then I can direct you back towards Grover's and maybe fetch you around as appreciation for you, all of you coming here. I don't know
A round of what?
That's
Sheep
What?
juice.
Ooh.
what
alcoholism. Sheep juice can be arranged. Just say yes.
drinks,
Oh.
a round of drinks.
The sheep juice is a drink.
I don't know if Grover has that, but I
He
would
does.
ask.
Require the blood of your finest.
Anyway, so yeah, if you
Those
guys
are both
don't need
options.
anything, do you need anything? Do you want to see more
where
of the
are
town?
you
Round of
Just-
drinks
staying
sounds
tonight?
great. Probably
That's
at
my
your
house.
house, Rachel.
And maybe if we need to call for some reason, where would that be?
So if you go
I mean, I don't mind.
to
I just
the
want to bed.
southeast corner of the town, it's actually not horribly far from the tavern. I have a house set up just next to the wall. It's not the slums, but it's close. Basically, you're looking for a blue roof, white painted thatch house for the most part. It's got a 2-story.
Sounds good.
Stories. Yeah. So if you should need anything, feel free to knock.
Rachel's kind of needy
Like sheep
sometimes.
juice. Like sheep juice.
Beggars can't be choosers. So, anyways, if you follow me, we'll lead you off back to Grover's, and we'll see what he can do about sheep juice
Round of drinks.
and a round of drinks. Most importantly, all right. Follow me, and she just starts marching along. On occasion, she's a little bit, couple paces ahead of a lot of you guys, just kind of scratching down a note or two. As she kind of goes along, she'll pull out her glasses and just kind of, and then eventually you do make it to this tavern. That the shape of the building itself, it seems as if 2 or 3 trees have just kind of grown up and then bent over each other to kind of make the core foundations of the roof of this building. And you can see more trees that have kind of branched and spread around to kind of interweave with each other to form the walls, and then there's actually a section that kind of makes a second story that almost blossoms into its own smaller tree house, almost of sorts.
Slaker stops and goes, I'm a fan.
No, you're a Slaker.
As you guys approach, she's like, she just kind of points on into the door and goes, well, if there's anything else, you know what to look for, and I will be headed off to go see about travel arrangements to see if we can speed up the process, give us a little bit more time over by Skull Island, and yeah. And then she grabs like 3 pieces of gold and hands it to Rachel, and just like, here you are. That's for the round of that's for the round of drinks. She does this in plain view of everybody, making it clear for you.
3 gold. It's a party.
And she looks to a lot of you and is just like, if you need anything else, don't hesitate to be a stranger. I will be sure to be around the house closer to sundown. So couple hours from now.
Your generosity is appreciated.
You really do need to get her a glass of water. She's starting to lose her voice almost. What are you, part of the traveling caravan?
Yes, singing actually true.
Roll deception.
My voice.
Roll deception, by the way.
Great, great
Singing true.
song.
Singing.
My God.
That's a 12.
Alright, well, if you need anything else, you know where to look. And then she just kind of, like, she's one of those, like, fast walkers where she struts with a fucking purpose kind of thing.
I have a great idea. So now here's
That's pretty much it.
Oh, it's okay. I'll do it today. Hey, there's some
So
gold.
what do you guys say to get some sheep juice?
Yes?
Want some blood? Drinks.
Okay. Barkeep.
Are we inside?
I guess so. You walk in.
Say we are.
Every,
Sorry.
all furnishings seem to be.
Just walking off to the barkeep.
As you guys enter the tavern,
It's
it's pretty decently lit. Most of the light is coming from the windows outside. As you look around, it seems that all of the furniture and the walls are formed out of the tree branches and wood. And most importantly, you can kind of see like some of the tables and chairs are just kind of moving almost as if the branches are forming into that same shape and carrying that shape through kind of like a wave effect across the room to kind of put some tables and chairs together and over in a corner. Off in the distance, you can kind of see a larger bar area with a couple of stools. It does look like there are a few people that are kind of scattered about. Most of them are very kind of worn down, rugged type looking characters that seem to have very, very poor clothing with lots of holes and burns and stuff like that, lots of dirt marks, very peasantry type people. For the most part, they kind of keep to themselves on one side of the larger tavern. But most importantly, Grace, get off your phone. Most importantly, looks at your phone again.
My sheet.
Why are you looking at your sheet, Grayson? Uh-huh.
So we're gonna search.
You're in a bar.
Need to see how much money I have.
You're the most skeptical one I am of when it comes to attention deficit. I look at you.
Clinically
10%.
diagnosed.
I don't care if you're clinically diagnosed. Start writing notes. It'll make your life easier, I swear.
You are the most skeptical one I know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so the lot of you approach the bar, go to the stairs on the left that are now
Well, I
lit.
approach the bar
I
Okay.
kind of follow Twiggy.
and I say, barkeep,
Barkeep.
you don't have to. A
You-
round of your finest spirits. My friends.
You see this this tree with a couple of leaves, almost as hair, kind of turn around with a face kind of sunken in,
Whoa.
with small yellow eyes, just kind of very slowly, very powerfully, kind of just rotates towards you and goes, "I prefer the term bartender."
Jesus
Some
Christ.
little tree joke for you.
Aren't you a force to be reckoned with?
She gets it. So you're looking for some spirits?
Preferably alcohol.
Or else we'll
Well,
be.
that answers the wisp question.
This tree's a good guy.
Very well, and you just see one of his branches just kind of slowly reach over underneath the counter and pulls out just a whole string of different alcohols, and you see it kind of grab one, and then another couple of branches are reaching over and just start putting a couple of drinks together, and goes, and all of those start going over to the peasants that are kind of over in the corner. So what kind of spirits are you in the mood for? And you kind of see the ones that his branch is kind of wrapped around. You see a bunch of different varying sizes of like wines and distilled alcohols that he clearly didn't.
Do you
make.
have
Take the
anyone
strongest thing you've got.
feisty and tasty?
For you,
A
I
feisty spirit.
think I have something with cinnamon that I think would be of equivalent value, and pours you a small glass of this kind of like darker, slightly reddish amber fluid. And then, what were you asking for?
The strongest thing you've got.
Looks tasty.
And for you,
It's like,
for you, and you see him kind of ponder for a second, and one of the branches kind of goes up to his lips. And he just kind of reaches down and he's like, "This has been distilled for many millennia. We'll see how pure it is." You can just see like barely the little bottom of it is kind of filled, and you see him reach underneath the counter, and he emerges with some kind of a like thick padding on his branch, which is now holding a small stick that he strikes on the bottom of the counter, and then it lights on fire, and then it just all the air kind of gets sucked out of it as the fire's put out, and just hands it over to you very slowly.
Thank you.
So, are you closing out here or opening a tab?
He is the one with the money. She's the one
Shahid.
That
Shahid.
is
A 19. I'm
never
Shahid
mind.
now. You want to see that?
I know exactly
I know
what
what
you're
you're
talking about.
You do?
Yes.
I'm so
I'm
glad.
Shahid. I don't remember what she says.
I'm Shahid and I do a black flip.
Backflip.
Would be due before your departure.
Okay.
I'm Shahid. I forgot how to count. What comes after 7 or whatever?
6.
6.
Well, I will keep
What comes after 6?
Would you like something to drink?
Would I?
I hope you would.
What kind of sappy strings do you have?
Can you repeat that in a normal voice for me?
What kind of sappy drinks do you have?
Sappy drinks.
Sappy drinks? This is a drink. What? Like amber ale.
Well, I have
Oh, it's a
amber.
Yes. No.
I have
Yes,
other
kind of.
drinks, unless you're looking for something more like molasses.
Some fruity, maybe? Something natural?
That was me burping to add effect.
That's how the tree,
of the
like,
wood
goes,
groaning.
mm.
Yeah. And you see him kind of reach beneath, and then he pulls out a kind of, what was that?
Oh.
Wow.
You see him pull out something that appears to be a very like amber color, and then there's another one where it pours out like tar almost. It is like take your pick, and he just has both of them in a couple of branches. While a bunch of other branches are doing stuff all over the place.
I'll take them both.
I don't know, I'm matching his like tone of voice.
Yes, I speak slowly. 2 branches.
Well, and for you.
Now take a bunch of drinks with me.
I'll take one of these.
Hey, look at
Have no fear, we are not alcoholics.
At that point, I'm gonna finish mine and be like, can I have another?
You just see another branch.
Well, I say cheers to our first day in Gladden.
That was more of a look at throwing the
I
drink.
know, like
What? Wait.
I have a toast to make.
Yes?
Yeah, Jan,
Oh,
what did
I
you do?
remember this.
Jan, are you grabbing the amber one or the tar one?
Which one did you give me?
You can take the amber.
Take the amber one.
It's okay, he said you're not talking.
From
Drinking souls.
Yes. That's what makes you talk to the sheep.
So,
Drinking the souls makes you talk to the sheep.
so, Slaker, you drink yours just fine. Jan, you drink yours just fine. When it eventually touches your lips, this
Oh,
is
God.
some foul tasting. It's almost like drinking syrup, except in terms of consistency, except it smells sour and bitter, and it kind of like wilts your tongue at just touching it with it. I don't know if you finished that or not.
Take like a signal.
Just like,
Power through, Rachel.
No, it's pretty good. maybe you guys should try it.
did you drink yours?
Yeah, I drank mine.
All right, it burns all the way down. It scorches you, but
I swallowed and I'm like,
That's what
Yep.
you get for drinking souls on fire.
it's a good thing you're sitting down. Also, you should roll con at disadvantage.
Get it? Spirits.
Sweet fucking fun.
12.
12?
Like the
Yeah.
album name.
You're starting to feel a little tipsy already,
Oh, wow.
and it's not been 5 minutes.
Alright.
Yeah, it's potent. It works. It does its job.
So I'm just like sitting there with my legs.
You're like,
Yeah, like,
Rap metal.
you can see that the main part of the tavern keep, Grover, is kind of off servicing some other guests, and then you see an image of his face kind of slowly emerge out of the bar and goes, "Would anyone like more drinks?"
I think I might have had enough.
I'm not good.
And then another branch.
More souls, please.
Spirits. She means spirits.
What that one had?
Don't have what I had.
Keep giving me the blood.
Too strong.
The blood one. It's good.
She had
I
the
mean,
cinnamon
it's
one.
not blood, but
The
that's
cinnamon one.
Alright, go ahead and roll con. And then for the lot of you, what are you guys doing? So far, you've had a couple drinks.
When is it like, just let me know when it's like night, about to be night.
It's not night, but it's early evening. Like, the sun's not set, but it's setting.
Let me know when Dorothy's home.
23.
What?
I mean, you got a general time frame. You wouldn't know specifically.
Well, it would be like, it's just around nighttime, right? Like
Yeah.
sunset.
Like, within the hour, she's sure to be home, probably.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Okay.
23.
I don't have a
23?
plan.
Alright.
Get us all into
You're
trouble.
starting to feel like a slight numbness in your fingers, but you seem to be doing okay. As far as an idea of sobriety.
Do you have breath mints?
You
Can I have another?
see a branch emerge and then just a leaf of mint comes out.
Sure, yes, please.
What?
Can I have another?
I'd like to freshen my breath, please. I know someone who has a problem with alcohol.
There's a leaf. Oh my god. Thank you. That's some good cohesion there. The branch motions with the leaf mint.
You don't even have to go into the forest and find a small, colorful item and put it in your mouth to make your mouth smell better.
It's right here. You're right.
So convenient.
Oh my God, read this minty leaf tree.
I mean, by mint, it's mint. That's how mint go. Mint in the old times. It's a wonder.
Shocking mint.
It also, like, when you are kind of chewing or sucking on the mint, it kind of takes away the taste of your tar that you had. That was kind of like wilting your mouth a little bit. Kind of takes the sting away. It's like a salt liquid tequila. It's like that. But, do you not know that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I just said ew.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tequila.
Tequila, Bert Mockingbird. Anyway, what did a lot of you guys do?
You're right, dude.
That was my idea, but it already exists, so I'm sad.
We'll stay out drinking.
Okay.
Chill out.
At the bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there like a back on these chairs? Is it a
No,
stool like this?
it's a stool like yours.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna
All
chill
on.
It's my
I mean,
stuff.
you can ask her about that.
Hey,
You
Doctor,
want?
can you put it back on this chair?
So, and then you just feel branches almost crawl up your back to
Wow.
kind of square
This
off.
bar effort.
Yeah, a living, breathing bar.
Yeah, that's good sauce.
The face on the bar itself goes, so looking to close your tadpole. Interested in something else?
What's something else consist of?
More drink, more food, more service. I have
More
rooms if you're looking to stay here for the night.
Yes, a canopy would be nice. To sleep in. A bed of leaves, perhaps.
One for just you or one for your each?
Do we want to share a room?
What's the prices?
What's the prices?
Just the standard rate.
Oh yeah, I know that from the hotel that you own at home. What's the rate?
The average expenses for just modest, it's 1 gold per day per room.
Oh, good, that's not bad.
That includes
No, we
some
still want
food.
it.
If you're just looking for stay, that's like food and board basically. If you're just looking for somewhere to stay, it's 8 silver a piece per day. Unless you're looking for like
I think we're
a
each gonna
giant
get
room or
a
something.
room. One for each of us.
All us ladies could share.
That is true. We are ladies.
Yep.
Oh, we're
That's
singing
sisters.
troop, we do it all
Yeah.
the time.
Ah!
Wow.
What a beautiful.
Aren't they great?
77 sheeps on the wall.
77
sheeps. Shake one down, shear it around. 76 sheep on the wall.
He
This
looks
is
at
just
you
their
and
warm
he's
up. We
like,
promise them.
if you want for to if you want for to the one room, then I can make it a smaller room, and that would just be modest, unless you want them sectioned off from one another.
Just a modest room.
Modest room?
Yeah.
Okay.
You like modesty?
Yes.
You like mine?
Very much
I
so
just
in
preferred.
shared spaces.
You can kind of see him like morph a couple of smaller branches on the bar, and you actually see a layout of the room. It's basically just a square where it's the 4 beds kind of laid in parallel across from one another.
Can you carry me up there?
I got you.
Not what I was expecting. Lifted by branches.
I wish to ascend to the
Which way?
You just see the walls form arrows toward the staircase.
I just start running with toes in a bridal parry.
Okay, you get to the top of this stair, and you can see there's a long stretch of hallway that seems to be kind of forming in front of you and then morphs together to start putting a piece of room. If you keep running, you're going to fall out of the building.
Okay. You're gonna
So you
keep
just
running?
fall out?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll stop. It's one of those where I'm like running, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Oh, I know, I should stop.
Anyway, so yeah, the room is being morphed above you, kind of in front of you a little bit as the bed of leaves, you got it, form a bit of a canopy to make somewhere for you guys to rest. And then, alright. What are the rest of you guys doing?
I'm following them up towards the room.
Watch me leave the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you up
I'm gonna sleep.
to? In what?
I don't have
You don't have a room.
I know.
Zion also doesn't.
Alright, he hasn't done much. We heard from him. I forgot he was there. I'm like, Zion, you're still here.
No. I tried. You should have seen when Grayson was gone as fuck, what was my character's name? The old character.
Bolson.
Yeah, as Volston Culver, and he left for he wasn't there for a session, and so like at the very end of the session, I'm describing when Grayson wasn't there for the session as Volston.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the one thing he contributed was he basically walked into the cockpit, didn't know what was going on, went into the kitchen, ate some ice cream, came back to the cockpit, half finished someone else's ice cream, and then went to bed. Like, that was his contribution that session.
Yep.
Oh god. Anyway, so yeah, Volston, what do you do? The rest of your companions, they just kind of casually follows behind.
You mean yawn?
Yeah.
No.
What are you
he's
up
still
to?
in my arms.
You and Zion are at the
Zion?
table. Faye gets up and follows the rest of the girls.
The girls,
Girls.
wink, wink. Aggressive wink.
3 out of the 4 are girls.
Right.
I'm not a girl.
Well,
You're an it, but you're in a female form right now.
True.
So you're a girl.
But yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, technically, so it's Rachel.
Yeah.
What?
What?
So,
Zion, shall we prepare lodgings outside? Or do you require indoor lodging?
I mean, I have a bedroll.
What?
I have a bedroll.
Very well.
Aren't we on a tab?
Indeed. We probably haven't spent 3 gold. Well, we can request a room.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh.
Tree man. You require another room.
Please.
Treeman.
Well,
Ah, Roman, yes.
for each
Myself and Zion.
together, same bed or separate? I don't judge. It's always safe
Whichever is
to
more
not
economical.
make assumptions. Alright.
Red,
Matt,
my auntie's here. Can we come down?
I mean, I guess you can.
Are you decent?
I have a stream going. I'll say hello. It's that little camera in the corner. Hello, camera.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to
Hi.
my nerd haven.
I love
Street.
it.
We're playing
The
Dungeons and
dungeon.
Dragons.
Yeah, see? Okay, I love that.
Dungeons and
Um,
Gardens.
Grayson, did you want modest, comfortable,
Modest.
bare minimum?
What's the price difference?
Well, bare minimum is 7 copper, but you don't have a roof.
What's the next one?
That's what Slate
1 silver is 4.
1 silver, that's one.
It's basically you open the door and there's the bed and that's it.
As
And
long
there
as there
wouldn't
is
have
a
separate-
roof.
There would be a roof. It would just be a little holy.
Well, it has not been made, so.
Rolls to see what there is. That's weird. Okay, so, alright. You and Zion are sharing a bed in core?
What?
Or you're getting 2 separate core rooms?
2 separate core rooms.
Okay.
2 separate core
Here we go.
rooms.
And then...
2 separate core walls. I mean, you can fit a gnome in a bed with you pretty easily.
Yeah, you're a little dog. Sleep on it.
I just sleep like this, and he just lays there, just like this.
Yeah, yeah.
We're obnoxious.
Cross legs.
See what-
Like that.
I'm calculating. I'm calculating how much you guys owe.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
This damn tree man. Treeman.
I wish Slate could know the option.
Treeman.
Harry Treeman.
Morgan
50
Freeman.
something president of the United States. He was not the 50th.
What?
Harold Treeman.
Harry Treeman, the 35th
Harold
Harry
president.
Treeman.
Yeah, Harry Treeman, the 30-something that's president of the United States.
Oh, does he? Ah, it's too late. Does he have Barks root beer?
Ah. Fucking
You know what's
good.
really great? Unfortunately, he does make his own root beer.
That's awesome.
Does he call it Barks?
What?
Does he call it Barks?
No, it's trademark.
So we can have Nathan's famous, but not Barks.
No,
Yeah.
no,
No,
Nathan.
Nathaniel's famous is.
Nathaniel.
Nathaniel famous is.
Nathaniel Nemesis.
Nathaniel famous is hot.
Nemesis Jamesis.
But it's sandwiches.
Nemesis
Cute?
Jamesis.
Yeah, like
You have bottle
that.
openers?
That should be
That's a
replaced.
twist off.
It's not twisted.
You got twist
Oh.
better. There you go.
Okay, we're good.
I am my cool mace.
I like that.
It's for stabbing people ineffectively because they're not very sharp. They're just for cool. They're for the cool.
Yeah.
Spoigsy.
Fucking
Swish,
There's Juan.
Oh, yeah, they're
Juan.
Alright, so you guys have your rooms and it's starting to get into nighttime territory. I didn't know if you wanted to do a thing. Because
It's
it
very
sounds
intense
like
look.
you wanted to do a
They
thing.
do creepy things. I'm gonna sneak out now.
Okay, go ahead and roll stealth. Everybody else in the room, are you sleeping or are you just playing patty cake or, I don't know, monkeys on the bed or... What are you guys doing in your modest
Definitely
room?
not
Staring
asleep,
through the
not
holes in the
asleep,
roof.
But I'm laying in the bed.
Laying
Okay.
in monkey sleep.
For perception, that was a nat 20.
You You see nothing.
I got a
Sees
17.
all.
Yeah, I got that 22.
Oh shit! What's your mods? Opposing mods.
No. Fuck, I got one.
I feel like your sneak might not. I don't know. Your deception, I know, is high. If I remember right. I don't know
Well, I
about your
got a
sneak.
mod 0, so probably not.
It'd be really awkward if you have a negative sneak.
But it's still a.
It's
What
under
is type
dex.
two? Ooh, it is -2.
Oh no.
Oh, sucks.
Yeah.
It's -2.
-2 my deck.
Alright, so yeah, she sees you.
Can I just?
You manage to out sneak the rest of the room. I'm assuming physically.
Can I stealthily follow?
Sure, roll stealth.
Wait,
Where are you going?
so do I need to roll
18.
perception again to see if I notice her
If you
getting out?
if you would like.
Roll perception.
Yeah, that's a 2,
Sure.
so definitely not.
I got an 18.
Okay.
So I am keeping all. It's a 4.
Yeah, Faye's not. So you and Faye are just kind of like chilling on your half of the room. Yeah, you sneak out. You don't notice that you're being stalked by a half orc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just
Where do you go?
leave the establishment, and then I'm gonna go to Dorothy's house.
Okay.
Same.
Start
From a
wandering
distance.
up. Go ahead and roll perception to see if you're, or no, roll survival. Actually, that's a more accurate roll for trying to know where you're going and remember what you were looking for.
Let's see. You said survival?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Then I got a mod of 20.
Mod 20? Okay, yeah, you've got a good idea for where something might be. And then, yeah, eventually you do find the edge of the slums. It looks like there are lots of pitched up tents. Most of them are not well kept in the slightest, but there is a very sizable number of them of varying shapes and colors that are kind of scattered throughout the kind
Okay.
of slummy area just next to the gates.
I'm going to use disguise self to turn into like a really rugged, buff-looking dude.
Oh,
Intimidating.
okay.
Yeah, just so I don't get attacked by a slum dog millionaire.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I'm like a
I know it.
woman right now. I don't want to be like,
Yes, come kill me. Oh no, I'm in danger. I have money.
Okay, you cast
I am
disguise
a
self
rich
to make
traveling
yourself.
actress.
I like to imagine like Bonesaw from the first Spider-Man. For Bonesaw is ready with a big black beard and long hair. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I don't-
Basically, just a big wrestler.
Oh, okay, from the. Okay.
Now you know.
It is a big wrestler. Yeah, I'll be
This is a big wrestler. Okay. So you basically just turn into Bonesaw and you're just passing by the refugee-ish
Yeah.
kind of slum
Yep.
area. And eventually you do see, like, almost pinned against the wall, more surrounded by poor tents than the kind of crafts buildings that are nearby. You see what was described to you, a blue-topped house with white siding.
Nice. Is the lights on? Is somebody home?
In one of the rooms, it looks like there's a lit lantern.
Alright, I am going to disguise self again as Toes, but in very elegant clothing.
Okay,
King Wenceslas?
Well, King Wenceslas isn't a tiefling. He's
So-
like green.
yeah.
So I'm going to be tiefling in clothing.
Okay, so basically Wenceslas clothes on Toes' body.
Yeah, Toes' body, yes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to approach the door, and then I'm going to knock on
As far
the
as I
door.
know.
Yeah.
And also as far as I know.
Okay, you knock on the door. A few seconds later, you see the door open, and she
I'm
eyes
hiding
she
from a
eyes you.
distance.
What was that?
I'm hiding from a distance so I can still see, but not physically.
Okay, that's fair. So, you see Dorothy open the door, and she goes, "Ah, Rachel. You're not Rachel right now."
No, I know that. I was under the impression I'm not Rachel. So I'm gonna say-
She just kind of moves some of her hair, and she has this third eye that's kind of
Oh.
like looking you up and down that she kind of hides away. She's like,
yeah.
I know whether or not you're lying.
You're pretty
by the
good.
way."
Pretty good journalist. That's good.
Yep. That's why I'm in this profession. So what can I do you for?
Well, you see, that's exactly why I'm here. No, I'm just kidding. in so many words. Just wanted to see if you were free for Franks.
Grief for free.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait, I just followed you to a date?
Yeah. Pretty much.
is it just you, or will your companion be joining as well?
You mean Rachel? Alternate persona?
No, she points at an orc hiding behind a corner in the distance.
The fuck?
Never mind, no orc. I didn't see anything. Just you or your friends as well?
Just me.
Okay. Well, not gonna lie, a little weird to go out with somebody who struts around as a woman.
Well, that's a new thing.
Oh, okay. As long as that's a new thing. Just want
Last 24 hours.
Well,
Keeping up appearances.
well, in that case, sure, but I'm not treating it as anything more. I'm gonna be interviewing you. That's kind of my job. That's how I'll go about it. So I'll get to know a lot about you, and you might know a little bit more about me. At minimum, I'm good at conversation.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
Don't
sure.
look at me.
Yeah, you're not even here.
Cool.
Well, I am.
I like to
You're
imagine
not,
you're
yeah.
you're still there, but you're like less poking out.
Oh, absolutely.
Alrighty, yeah, sure. Guess that sounds fun. Let's get to know each other. Look at my outfit. I'm so rich. It's the first thing you should
I'm
know.
just gonna.
She gives you a knowing eye, like,
I'm a priest.
yeah, but
Pretty rich for a priest.
she just touches your actual clothing underneath your disguised self.
It's also mostly rags that I'm wearing. I still haven't gotten new clothes.
Yeah.
Since the last time.
Yeah.
Listen, no.
You got 3 layers of clothes on.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like layers, ghost layers.
I mean, if you want to keep lying to me, I mean, you can. I know a lot. That's
kinda what I
That's
did.
also probably why.
That's the truth.
JC's obvious.
Yeah.
The truth is I lie a lot.
That also might. I've low key just gotten my husband in alcoholism, but who knows?
Right?
I mean, no, he can't get away with anything. I know everything.
Oh, yeah.
At least with regards to talking to him one-on-one. I don't know everything. I just know what I see. I know what I see and hear.
Do you live here? Your ex-dead husband, drunk husband?
Yeah. So there's
Are
actually
you guys still on the front porch?
yeah.
Yeah.
There is a small enchantment on the house that I can tell you on the way to Grover's, or do you want to just stop by here? I don't have anything
Oh, back to
alcoholic
Grover's,
here.
huh? Okay, yeah.
Also, I'm not going to be drinking. I'll just have water or something of that sort.
Yeah, sure.
It's root beer, I've heard. It's not alcoholic, but it tastes great. Grover's.
Yeah, sure, back to Grover's. Works for me.
Alright. And then as you guys start walking, she talks about how her house basically, there's an enchantment with her, so she can move the house wherever she's going so long as there's a spot available.
It's like,
Which-
champion.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's more like a teleport than it is a shrink move like Ant-Man does, but that's kind of how she's able to set up camp wherever she's actively journaling and writing stuff down at. She actually took that house with her on a race around the world at one point where she kind of got second using mostly public transportation without any
Is this perhaps
magical
something
teleporting.
she tells me on the way to Grover's?
Yeah,
Cool.
the lowbrow.
Alright.
As far as Slaker, what are you doing?
I'm in the slums, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the slums.
Meanwhile, in the mud-trodden corner of the society.
So people are just like living in tents or what?
Yeah.
It's like spying on us and like, well, I'm here.
Are there any kids?
There's a couple. They're accompanied by their mothers and fathers. There's a couple of people that kind of gather around fires for warmth and stuff.
Are people awake or asleep?
They're mostly still awake. It's not that late. It only just started to get a little bit dark, but it is starting to get cold.
What time is it?
So if I were to give it an actual
You know what a
number,
jelly's at?
like 8-ish if it's summer,
Okay.
8-ish. So not terribly
Not
long
bad.
into sundown.
How long ago did I eat?
Like within the hour.
The hot dog was within the hour?
Oh, the hot dog. The hot dog was maybe 2 hours. You guys were spending some time at the bar with Grover. His interactions just low key waste time.
Is there like someone in the slums who's kind of defenseless and weak, sitting out away from everyone else? I don't know.
Roll perception at. Yeah, just roll perception.
Defenseless slum boys.
9.
Not really. The biggest thing is that it seems like they have a very communal type of living together. That might have to do with the fact that they're kind of stuck in a bunch of mud pit areas, so they kind of have to pool together in order to just kind of get by. It looks like some of like the tents and stuff, like there's mud coked onto them so that it looks like it's been there for some time.
Do they have food?
Rats?
What about like defenseless children?
No. I'm gonna say defenseless means completely alone, in which case no. Everyone's kind of surrounding a fire in different kind of pods. It's very tribal almost.
How about someone sick and dying?
Most of them seem like they are, for the most part, Kenku, but there's a couple of like gnomes and humans kind of scattered in and amongst the population.
Kenku's a bird?
Bird people, yeah.
Oh, neat.
Like nugget.
Birds are
But
good.
bigger than nugget birds.
Birds are real big.
Birds with other birds. Lots of number.
That's the problem. Okay, can I just,
Big birds.
There's also
Dredge
the
fire.
occasional guard now that it's nighttime going through the city, but they're not like in and amongst the slums, but they are on the skirts of the slums, which is where you're at now. If that makes sense.
Baker's just taking a sweet time thinking.
Okay.
Sorry. Blame it on the alcohol.
I mean, that's fair.
What?
It's the music, not my cannons.
No.
Is there like a good hiding spot nearby?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just gonna hide and see if anyone wanders off by themselves.
Okay.
Did you just throw dice at me?
No.
No.
Clearly not.
What did you throw? Not.
Yes.
Who's this?
It's over here.
Grayson, oh my God, is that you?
Okay. I'll consider it.
Grayson, look how little you were.
Don't consider it.
That was not that long ago, actually.
I know, but still, you
What
look
was that? What was that?
young.
Was that 2?
Times 17.
No. I think it might be 3.
It was 3.
Time has
Yeah.
not done you. Kidding.
No, it
I'm just
hasn't.
kidding.
Sorry. Sorry to say it, but
Hey, I sent you a message. Go ahead and read through that.
Hello.
I'm supposed to gambling, that's sad.
I just
Twiggy, what are you doing?
Well, I can't get to sleep, so I decided I'm gonna go back down to the bar.
Okay.
Has my
Lord.
disguise worn off?
Is it like 24 hours or just
Disguise
1 hour?
self?
Yeah, it's just 1 hour, right? That's what I thought.
It might be. At which point, we're all.
I don't think it's one.
I'm not.
Oh, it is one.
Well, you might be because you're
Shrug.
gonna eat.
I will call that just part of the town.
Part of the town.
Just like, yeah, sometimes magic lasts a little longer.
Okay.
And
So-
you guys were entering in and you came out of the portal, so,
So
maybe
I
there's just some latent magic happening.
Still.
So you're slowly turning into you.
We drank
Oh,
magic
so like my
juice.
arm is like blue and like giant like rescues and everything.
It's, yeah, it's slowly just kind of filling back to normal.
Okay. Well, if I head back down to the bar, and I ask the bartender for some warm milk, perhaps.
I don't know about he did. You might have to wait for that. But I have lukewarm milk
Not like I've got anything else to do. Pour me a glass.
of the room temperature.
Yes.
Or do you want to heat it up?
Well, you said you didn't know about heating it, but you can.
It would take some time.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. He just nods and he turns around to act like he's doing something, but you just hear branches moving like down the hallway on the main floor. In the meantime, Slake, or what are you doing?
Hiding, waiting for someone to wander out from the pack.
Okay. Go ahead and roll perception.
18.
You see what looks to be 2 or 3, you're pretty sure they're Kenku, but you're not sure, you're not 100% confirmed on that, because there's, baggier clothing with hoods up that are kind of walking by. You can clearly see at least one beak, but you're not sure about the other 2.
But they're still together?
You see 3 of them that kind of like almost sneak off past the edge of the slums when the guard has kind of passed, and when he's kind of out of their view, they seem to kind of walk off into the distance.
Can I stealthily follow them?
Sure, roll stealth.
7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Snake your guys.
The one with the beak, the one you definitely saw with the beak doesn't seem to turn around and notice you, but you do notice one, what appears to be a human face kind of look towards you, and then one that is humanish. It might be slightly paler or something, also seems to notice you, but they don't, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like they're not alarmed, like they don't get concerned?
They, how do I make this not racial profiling? I think I kinda just have to lean to it. Basically, like, they step faster and then, like, keep an eye on you, but they're not, like, calling for guards or something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're looking to not get mugged by an orc or something, if I were to describe it.
I'll go back to my hiding spot.
To the same hiding spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, hang on.
Okay. If you want to know where they're going, they're kind of heading towards like the center of town-ish.
A different hiding spot.
A different hiding spot? Okay. Just close to where you are currently?
No, back to the slums to find someone else.
Back to the slums?
Yeah.
Okay.
Man's got money.
Safer knows how to hunt.
Okay.
That's what I keep saying.
Okay. You and Dorothy manage to get back to Grover's. When you do, you can see a normalized Twiggy sitting at the bar.
Blowing our cover.
You see Toes as Toes.
Oh, right. I
Yeah.
forgot you.
You're blowing our cover. That's what I'm gonna say as I'm like not in my form.
Yeah. Dorothy just looks at the two of you. and
You're
is-
the one that brought Fletch here.
Listen, Dorothy didn't know that I was. Well, she knew that I was Rachel. I don't know, but you blew our cover. That's all I'm gonna say. Tree man,
I feel like I'm not at fault here.
you're probably at fault.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Do you both
went out
think
and
I
brought her
wouldn't
here.
talk to Grover about who I'd be accompanying?
See, I had an idea when we came here. I was like, oh, suggesting a bar. The barkeep she's probably gonna suggest and learn about us because she's a reporter. You're a smart lady.
So you
Thank you.
snuck
You're
out in
gonna
the
come
middle of the
on.
night. You snuck out in the middle of the evening
Yeah,
to grab this investigative reporter.
yeah, that's correct.
Grab's a strong word.
Well, yeah,
To
very
ask out.
strong word.
Looking like this,
What is
and
wrong with this?
I'm the one that blew our cover.
What do you say? This is a bad look.
We weren't even undercover.
We were undercover. I was a lady. You think I just became a lady for not being undercover?
I don't know your reasons.
So is this normal behavior between a lot of your crew?
Well, this is
Scribble,
all
scribble,
relatively
scribble,
new.
scribble, scribble.
The lady
Oh,
thing
so
is new.
you're a
the
recent
new,
addition.
not a long history. Everything's new.
So your group has been together for a while, but you've just joined?
No. I don't know how long they've been together.
But you've just joined them.
Recently,
Ah,
ish.
we're all very strongly allied.
Yes.
And
Very
nothing,
invested in all of their
nothing
personal
could go
lives.
wrong between any of us.
At all.
But you only just joined.
Recently-ish.
Alright. And then she, goes over to the stool next to you and just kind of motions you across the room to follow, and she just kind of sits down. She motions for you to be next to her so that she's kind of in between the two of you. And she's like, so, as far as your group's gone, since you don't know much about that, she turns to Toes. How long have you guys been traveling together?
Pretty good while. For like
Just a couple weeks.
6 deaths.
Is that how you guys measure your time together?
Yeah.
So you've lost 6 people?
Well, I don't know. Well, we definitely lost 2.
I see. That's pretty
Yeah,
unfortunate.
One
What
of
happened
them
with that?
was-
Scribble, 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 scribble.
Well, you see, you know the Nathan's Famous hot dog stand? So,
Just glasses. Uh-huh.
You know how the meat is brought out through a portal?
I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm just saying, there's like a salt line, you know? It's quantum theory here. I'm just gonna get real technical.
Salt.
It's quantum theory talk.
Uh-huh.
Salt line, basically somebody passed through the hot dog portal and then they turn into a rat.
What kind of salt are you doing, dude?
Wait.
I was explaining quantum theory.
One here.
So you're just talking about ritual casting. You're not talking about an actual portal? Like a portal? What happened with that? Were you preparing a spell for something, or was that just general circumstance? You just make rituals?
No, we were prepping.
How's that all going?
See, we know a very smart guy, big portal guy,
Huh?
and we were doing stuff for him.
Do you know what his name was?
It was Hal.
Are you lying?
No, it's Hal.
Yeah.
Hal. Hal Reachim.
Scratch, scratch, scratch.
Hal Reachim in the sky.
Quote, quote, how reach, quote, quote.
Yeah. He's a pretty cool guy. He's from like pretty far away. Tell me
So
more
like
about
near
you.
Moontop.
Yeah, like moonlit top, but like also somewhere else maybe. If you know that area, probably somewhere else.
Yeah. Isn't
Bless you.
I'm
She
a
just kind of,
priest.
yeah, she just kind of, she just kind of looks at you and is just like, I mean, one of my more recent accomplishments, I just low-key had to leave the city of Dawnburg because there is a famous musician there known as the Fixer who apparently has ties to criminal family that I kind of uncovered. He wasn't very happy about that, but I dug and the truth was found. So that said, that's mainly why I'm in Galadimir right now. That and also kind of chasing rumors. Apparently there was a very weird political scandal here, maybe 19, 20 years ago, something like that, where a couple of there was this important family that lived nearby who the mother and father ended up passing away in a house fire, and their children were never really found.
Are you okay? What are you doing?
I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing?
I thought you were starting to talk about my
What?
Jan's family. From
John's
Dawnburg.
family?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Is
I was like, uh-oh.
Is Jan
I was like,
in the
is this
room?
plot development?
Is Jan in the room?
Writes down things.
He's like in his bedroom.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, it's still just me. I was like,
Oh, okay.
You as Grayson?
Yeah.
No, the
Jan doesn't.
yeah, no, the family was near Galadinit, more towards the Elflands, near like the Seven Woods area. So there was this family where there was a mother and father who ended up passing away in a house fire, but their children weren't really ever found after that. So that was initially why I came to the area, because I was like, that might be an interesting story to kind of dig up something in the past. Slightly more recent for elves, since they live a little bit longer, time's relatively shorter for them, but it would have been a decade or two ago. I mean,
Just related to
Especially
Fëanor
for the
at all?
time frame too.
Fëanor?
I was like,
Not that I know.
Fëanor's fully on legitimate, right? As far as king of this land? Or ruler?
Well, it's more governor-ish, is my understanding.
Appointed or
Appointed, yeah. It was, I believe his brother or his father, one of his family members are in charge of the Seven Woods area. But as far as like him and the house fire, my understanding is it's not connected, just because like he's civil with political advisors and opponents and stuff. Apparently, the
No, I just saw him.
the father was elvish and the mother was human, so they had a couple of half-elf children. But the father was very, very like pushing of having more human relations. But this would have been just after the wars between humans and elves, before the orcs kind of came in and started messing things up a little bit. Since then, trade and kind of fragile peace has worked out pretty well. Fëanor used to be pretty against it, against the idea of humans kind of roaming around, but after their tragedy, he actually kind of flipped sides and was much more open to the humans being in the area. But no, I don't. As far as my understanding, his rule has been pretty well received, especially with what's his name? Flip. Sturgis Thoroughbred. He's kind of like the advisor who talks to the guards and stuff. Back in the day, I mean, he was one of the
Is that
few.
boots for hands?
Yeah, that's the gentleman.
Yes, the
Yeah, he 20-ish years ago he didn't have boots for hands apparently. Tragic accident or just
related to the fire?
unfortunate alchemy, or I don't know.
That's a hot dog.
He says it's alchemy that made his hands.
Insane.
Oh God, I
Feet.
had two of them already.
Anyway, so
That's what he is.
Sturgis was one of the only humans in the area around this time, so kind of him becoming an advisor was a pretty big deal as far as the political relations of the area. But I mean, I can't speak too much for in between. From my understanding, it's just kind of him being advisor and doing more of the like day-to-day minutia tasks that Feanor really does not want to be bothered with because he's kind of a prick. I mean, he's kind of busy being important.
They were supposed to meet up with Sturgis again at some point today, and he's not showing up. Do you think he would be a good person to stall and wait for before we depart tomorrow?
I mean, I can just send word out. We can talk to one of the guards and say, hey, this was the party sent by Ugorum.
Yeah.
He's the wizard up north. Yeah,
I'll reach
he,
him this guy.
flip. I would say that wouldn't be a terrible idea just to kind of keep him updated. He likes to have reports, especially if we're going to be doing more investigative work. I'll actually, before I go to bed, I'll talk to one of the guards so that they're at least updated on the situation, whether or not that word reaches him tonight or will reach him tomorrow or something like that. At least someone will know. But yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about tomorrow because we'll be traveling. I have a friend who lives down here who will be lending us just a small pack horse and small carriage that we can ride up to the edge of Skull Lake where he's got a small dock. So should be pretty fun. Yep. More about yourselves. What's your lives? Where are you from? How'd you get to meet each other? Apparently you're newer. How did that happen?
Well, I'm, as you say, a wanderer at the moment. And so I was wandering and happened upon this lot that had, seemingly were in need of another party member. And, I was kind of joined up.
What were you doing before you were wandering?
You know, just, I don't really like to talk about it. It's kind of dark times for me. Emotional. I don't
Because
like to
of
be, so.
Family?
You could say that, yeah.
So, really close friends then.
Yeah, but basically a family.
Okay. I won't pry if you don't want.
Maybe in time.
So what's with the third eye? Is that a family trait thing, or you just
No,
dead?
no, that's something that I kind of looked into. No, it's something that I kind of developed on my own, mostly through sorcery, which I guess would be technically more family based because sorcery is mostly a bloodline thing. You inherit your kind of magical abilities, but it's something that I kind of developed. Since you don't know, and she moves her hair and you just see this like yellow third eye that kind of hides underneath.
Is it blind?
No. No, it's probably the reason why I'm so good at the journalism business because I'm able to kind of see if I can see through basic disguises and stuff. So like when I met you guys, I knew that you were a furbolg and I knew that you were a tiefling, but you were pretending not to be.
What about the half orc?
The half orc?
Yeah.
She's a half orc. Because of polymorph. That's my understanding, at least.
Yeah, well, I was just saying.
It's not like a magical effect, unless she's not a half orc. Is she
She's a
not?
half orc.
What?
Yeah, they're all like, yeah. She's a half orc.
I can also tell if
He's
someone's
an
lying.
ASMR. You're a.
I won't know what
Woman.
the truth is, but I'll know when someone's lying.
That nervous laugh.
Yeah.
You seem to have found your perfect match, Toad.
Yeah. And somewhere we'll meet in the middle and figure out what the real truth is.
She already knows.
Sure.
No.
I don't know what the truth is, but I know when someone's not being truthful.
Yeah.
Who was the other? Oh, the other tiefling was a half elf. She didn't say her name. I don't know what her name was.
That's a fae.
It's a fitting name for a half elf. Fae,
What a weird coincidence.
Well, cool.
Anyway.
Who are you employed by? I was gonna ask you.
For the most part, it's kind of freelance work. There's not, as far as like news reporting organizations, there's not much of that kind of in the cities and whatnot. The best is that there's a couple of scryers and the like in Dawnburg, but that's more for official standings, and then they have the normal callers who go around town, just town crying and saying what the general news is, but it's less of the written form and more kind of handing off the script for them to read and present to everybody. So when you find something like the singer whose criminal background is kind of brought up, that's really good attention grabbing, and it kind of opens the eyes to anybody that hears, especially when you have criers that are speaking outside of, say, the governing buildings and whatnot.
And do you deliver that information vocally, or?
I don't do that vocally. I just hand over whatever's written and what I've investigated. For the most part, all of that information gets passed to somebody who will then release it to the public. Some of the times I've had to pay off a crier or two to read an extra page on the script if, like, they've already got their routes chosen for the day, or if the ones that are hiring them have refused me a couple times, which has happened. There's a little bit of filtration of news, especially in like Dawnburg, but
So you would be able to pass on messages. How trusted are you? I assume you're super trusted. Like the crier would probably read anything you wrote.
like what would read?
Well, they'd read any script that you wrote, right? In good faith.
For the most part, a lot of my issue comes from the fact that I am a woman. The other part is that
Yeah, me too.
there's not.
Fair enough.
Part of that is the fact that there's not a lot of women involved with politics and journaling and that kind of stuff. The other thing is that some people think that the stories that I dig up are more like cocktail conspiracy theories and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's like 50-50 whether or not somebody will actually follow through and listen to something I wrote for them. But I do spend a lot of time making sure I gather the different sources for whatever kind of thing I'm trying to produce for someone.
Screw on that. The old noggin. You know what I'm saying?
Pen and paper, that's all I know. Takes it right back. Meanwhile, Slaker. Roll perception twice.
Meanwhile, that very same bee.
18 and 8.
Well,
Okay.
Christine.
At one point, you notice there's a couple of people that kind of walk up to one of the guards. The guards basically just kind of bully them back into the slum. And that's the end of that kind of exchange. They didn't really leave the camp, but that was about as far as they got. The other thing you notice later on down the road, you see the three with the hoods that left. They seem to be coming back in a bit of a quickened pace. And looking up the road, it actually looks like they're relatively close where the tavern was, relatively speaking. When I say quickened pace, they're somewhere between a jog and running back to the slum, somewhere in that realm.
But they're all together.
The three are, yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna leave my hiding spot and go to the tavern.
Going up towards the tavern, kind of past where they are coming from.
Yeah, to the home tavern.
Okay.
I'm a little mad, a little hangry, you know. So I just
Roll perception for me.
12.
12? All right.
I didn't put
So, I'm also gonna roll for 3. Okay, that's not terrible. Split this up. Yeah. Okay. Sprinting behind the three who are kind of running back towards the slum, you make it about halfway up the road when around the corner you see 4 rotting corpses just kind of running after the 3 down the street.
Alright.
What do you do?
I'm sorry. So I'm running. The 3 are coming down the hill.
So yeah, the 3 less down the hill and more down the road, and so it's like the 3 of them are approaching you. You're kind of walking
I'm, like,
past them,
Angrily going this way.
and then 4 rotting corpses kind of turn the corner and are running after those 3,
Oh.
and they're like almost passing you.
Alright.
I'm gonna stop and say, do you guys need help?
To the 3.
To the 3, yeah.
They scream like yes.
What's going on?
They just keep running. The shambling masses are following after them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna walk away.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I'm still very hangry, so I'm gonna keep
What
going.
happens in the slum stays in the
Wow. So the 3 run straight into the slums. You see a couple of guards that kind of like swarm toward the area where people have been yelling from or whatever behind you. I'm assuming you just keep walking.
I'm gonna like keep walking and then just kind of stop and turn around and watch what happens.
Okay. You see the shambling masses kind of slow down and come to a stop as one of the guards kind of like step up to them, and it looks like they might be talking, but the guard you can kind of hear words come out of. You don't really hear words coming out of the ghoulish figures. So that's what you kind of see. You're a little bit past earshot, so.
And then what happens to the ghoulish figures?
Are you still walking or do you stop?
I'm watching.
Okay, it looks like they're having a back and forth, and then another guard comes up and also has a back and forth with them for a minute.
Yeah, I'll just go back to the
Just
tavern.
need to walk around.
Okay. As you continue back to the tavern, you make it towards the edge of the tavern, and before you round the corner, you kind of get a glimpse out of the back of your eye, and they seem to just be slowly walking back towards the center of town again.
The ghouls?
Yeah, just lumbering. They're not like sprinting or in a rush or anything.
Oh, they're going slow. They're just.
I'm gonna walk towards him
Okay.
and just kind of like slide past them and see what's going on with them.
What's
Like,
going on, guys?
when you say slide past, do you mean like slide through? Do you mean slide aside?
Like just a
Like a wide berth?
not like super wide, but like people passing on the street.
Okay. They don't pay you mind. Shamble on.
Where are they going?
Back towards the center of town.
And then I follow.
Sure.
And then where do they go?
Okay. You follow them towards the center of town. Do you care if you're seen or not by them?
No.
I don't think so. Alright. Yeah. You follow them kind of towards the center of town, and they seem to head back towards the church. Just kind of start waddling on in. One after the other.
Okay, I'm going back to the tavern now.
Okay. You approach the tavern, and I'm assuming you just walk right in.
Yeah, probably.
Alright, inside you can see Twiggy as normal, Toes as normal, but with really nice clothing, and the person you met, Fletch, who is kind of sitting between the two of them, just kind of talking and writing stuff down.
Hey, Flash.
Slaker. That's your name?
Yeah.
I do really try to keep everybody's names. That's the biggest thing that I try to keep together for everyone. Where were you at?
Here and there. A little bit of everywhere.
As per usual.
I feel like there's more to that, but
See anything fun
Wait,
while
we
you're
snuck
out?
out. There's probably always more to this. Lakers,
Yes, so that
So that's the dynamic.
necromancy church.
huh?
What's up with that necromancy church?
What do you mean?
Like, tell me a little bit about it.
Slaker, what did you see?
question.
Well, I know for one thing, the primary deities they worship are, what's on the glasses? Belsharoon, Merkul, Jurgal, Yurtris, Talona, and then the Raven Queen.
Who's the Raven Queen?
She's a deity.
That's so
No. Yep, thanks.
Like God, all of them are gods of death in some respect. Some of them are more necromancy focused. Some of them are just kind of fate as a whole.
Do they have bodyguards or the church?
I mean, I would assume so. Besides just the town guard kind of keeping tabs. When you kind of mess with a necromancer, there tends to be somebody nearby. That somebody's usually rotten.
Yeah, right. And who would be in charge of those?
Primarily, I mean, the head cleric is Kazul, who I was talking about before.
Yeah,
I guess
can you
before.
introduce me tomorrow?
Well, we kind of have the whole issue with Iron Face, but I wouldn't be opposed to stopping by another time. I don't know if we'll have time tomorrow specifically, but maybe later this week.
What is Iron Face?
Iron Face
Is it face made of iron?
well, old Iron Face. There's rumors of somebody with an Iron Face that's outside of town that's kind of causing a ruckus around the edges of the Moaning Pond, or the Moaning Pool, I should say. more towards the day, but it sometimes goes into night. That's my understanding, at least from who I've talked to.
And whereabouts is the boning pool? Is it close to the slums?
No, it's outside of town, maybe an hour or two traveling.
Oh.
That's where we would be going tomorrow.
Yeah, can this cleric come with us?
I think his schedule's booked. Also, I wouldn't want him to. He's kind of not into investigative journalism all that much, and that's kind of my
Surprising.
whole thing.
Is anyone else into investigative journalism?
I major investigating.
I don't know about doing
And I
both.
keep a journal.
Apparently Twiggy's into it.
What?
Apparently she's into it.
Oh, I thought you called me a bit.
What? Apparently Twiggy's a bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought you
A
said.
bit into it.
Right? I was like,
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. What did you see?
Just a little bit of stuff.
anything that you need explaining or anything?
Generally most everything I see needs explaining. Yeah.
Alright, we'll just keep encountering things as we go then.
She looks at you again. Are you a half-orc?
Right now? Yes.
Bird is slipping
Okay.
Why? Do you not think I'm a half-orc?
Well, I know that was Rachel. I still don't know what your actual name is.
King Wenceslas.
Yeah. Trust her.
Between the
More
two
than
of
me.
you, she's just like, no.
You're a king?
No. Yeah, I told you I was a king. First thing I
I
said.
totally didn't believe that. This is still a thing though?
She looks at
That wasn't
Twiggy.
just a joke when I first met
Yeah, you
you?
don't not be a king when you're a king.
Don't joke about being a king.
Last time I ever fucking tried to meet somebody at the night. Ruining all my
She look-
secrets.
she looks at you,
Goes
it's just
every
like-
time. I'm out here to make secrets, not exploit and ruin all of mine.
What?
I don't know.
I don't really get anything.
I was trying to walk away. Turn to a man. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. You
I'm
haven't
a
even
priest.
had
I don't know what
anything.
that
I'm a priest.
Bartender.
Bartender tabs on door. Which
Not
is
the full
technically
tab.
true. Alright.
Not the full 10. I give you the 3 gold, but I'm willing to pay for a drink or two here.
It's the old everything.
I'll
I'll
have
just
one of
I'll
those.
have root beer.
Still waiting on my warm milk.
That is true.
Can I have
He
another one
brings
of
a
those
glass.
blood
Thank you.
souls?
Light a drink on fire, you can't.
Yes. And then he goes and pours another glass of cinnamon something.
I pull out one of the rolls that I stole from the, not stole, but took from the thing earlier for gambling, and I start eating that while I'm drinking my milk. Yes.
Okay, sure.
You're just gonna hear him out of this.
So she looks to the 3 of you and goes, well, I know a little bit more about Twiggy. Apparently you did. Actually, new question. Just one for indulging me. Did you and was it just you, or were you and your friends into investigating stuff? Because
We all
that's
were.
very much like in my field.
Yeah, no, we all were.
You all were? That's kind of awesome.
No, it was great.
How old are you?
About 25.
25? Were you all?
How old are you?
Oh. I'm a fair number. At least mid-30s.
Whoa!
I mean, she's been married and been widowed, so.
I know. How did you keep the marriage up and do all this traveling investigation? The liar. No, she didn't. It's the marriage
Well,
failed.
for one thing, my husband did travel with me. It's not like I didn't take the house.
But you did.
The other thing is that I got more into the journalism aspect. I got more into the journalism aspect after he passed away because he was more into kind of settling down and was a little bit more kind of like traditional values type person. So having a woman doing freelance work is not the most common thing, especially.
There.
What else is
Anyway,
there?
I'll leave you back to your age question.
Is that Monica or
Well.
Slaker?
That was Slaker. I was hoping so, because traditional values, freelance, woman doing work, like, woo! I'll
That's
explain
fair.
it all later. It's all good.
Traditional
So, yeah, more of the traveling and journaling stuff I did after he passed, which, that was some time ago.
Yeah, for us it was like 2 days ago.
That someone passed?
Yeah. Look, we all have her ashes.
Pulls out a little pouch.
Thought about putting some at a hot dog stand, but I didn't know.
I just have to find the right thing to season it with.
That would have been the most honorable.
To seize what?
Season
To season it?
with.
Yeah, you
What?
can try that like in your basin. Yeah.
Wait, you're using your friend's ashes? Your friend's
Not
ashes as
everything, but like,
Yeah.
I was like, man, it just come out of nowhere
What else are you
somewhere,
supposed to do
right?
with them?
You're not a You're not half orc, are
Yeah,
you?
but I was just looking at the holes in the roof. That's what I was entertaining myself with.
Right now I am.
Like, see everything. You're like, what the fuck?
Scribble, scribble,
That's the same
scribble.
response I gave
Well, I'm
last
looking
time.
up.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's just kind of like, okay. Jesus. Did you respond to that message?
I said emoji.
Yeah, that's not a response, Chris.
Did you even send an actual emoji?
That was
or did
my-
you just
yes.
type out the word emoji?
No, that was my.
No, it's
that-
literally
that
two
was-
hands.
That was my acknowledgement of it.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. I said emoji. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Do you have any form of response to that?
Yes.
Because if you do, that's
I mean-
kind of important to your race as an Azamar. Is your guide tells you something and also asks you to ask him things.
Yes.
He also was like, "Hey, here's some advice. Low-key, what do you
Mhm.
think of that?"
I'm just yes.
As young.
Yes.
No.
Come up with a response that's at least 3 sentences.
So I'm
Full
playing-
sentences.
God hits me up and I'm like,
If one of those sentences is yeet, I'm kicking you out of this fucking campaign.
As your chance.
Oh,
Well,
God.
Maybe.
Just asterisks with
It's like trying to catch on to the game. Dad.
or names.
Like trying to catch on to the game. It's like, don't turn your head over.
So, where are you from?
A little town.
Mhm.
It's been a while since I've been there. Since I traveled, I mean, I'm technically from nowhere.
Same.
Truly. Yeah.
Where are you
Would
from?
you as a DM say that's a fair assessment that I'm from
Yeah.
nowhere?
Oh yeah.
Same.
I feel like
Then
in
there was
both
no ish.
instances they're pretty accurate things.
No ish in that response. Just like same.
Yeah. Really adopted.
I was like,
Adopted by so who were your adopted parents
Like
like?
a priest.
Oh, you were adopted into a church?
Yeah.
Not the
Yeah.
same.
It's like a one man. It's like one old dude who ran it.
Okay. Do you know what the town was?
Right now.
Answers out of character. Yeah, sure. That.
Okay, yeah.
Or
I don't remember what it is. It's like
What's this one?
no.
it's like a really small place. I think it starts with an S, but it's been a long time.
I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Dying stone.
It was Ririk.
Oh fuck. Starts with an S.
QRS.
Yeah.
You're just there it is.
Yeah, Ririk. Yeah, I grew up in a small town. Up here. Wards
And
Nice.
the like
Horns?
I don't want to be offensive, yeah.
Oh, we got 'em.
Is that something you were born with or
Yeah. It's
How-
part of the adoption thing.
You should see his tail.
It's true, there's a stitch mark on it. For some reason. Can't imagine why. But yeah. You can,
I'm getting the impression you can imagine why.
No, I can't. There's hacked off. Almost. That's not better.
I just pulled out another roll.
Yeah, what is it?
Dipping it in the milk.
Yeah.
She's like, okay.
Anyway, we don't have infighting in the group. Nobody's ever harmed another party member.
Suspicious coffee.
Suspicious coffee.
Suspicious coffee.
Grover. One suspicious coffee, please. I'm playing off the tense situation. Let it make it happen.
So, coffee.
Are you
Yeah.
suspicious?
I thought I was playing it well.
Right, Grover, thank you. Yeah. So
He just hands you a small coffee. It's not warm, it's ice.
Okay. Yeah, but I just don't talk too much about myself. That's not fair.
That's all he does.
What, talk about myself? I'm the best. I'm a king. It has nothing to do with me.
I get it. The moon is out, and you're playing a foolish game.
I'm trying to remember.
Is she a mountain?
Yeah, that was the plan. Sorry, I'm coded language. Yeah, that was the plan, and then.
That's what I was looking for.
Because you were a strong lady.
There you go.
I get it now. Are you a boulder? You're a mountain. You're a mountain.
I tried to be. I don't know what you're talking about, friend.
Anyway, at this point, it's all over now. She has a third eye. Oh yeah, you don't know that.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, that's a third eye.
I saw it while I was spying.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
what
actually
it
say that in character. I
Did
said
it?
that as me.
Oh. Okay, because I was like, that's funny.
Spy the
I was just like,
Oh, yeah, so anyway, that's besides all the point. I wasn't doing anything anyway with my free time or my life. I'm a priest.
And then you joined this
I'm a
group.
I'm a holy man.
I'm a god to
I don't
attend.
do anything wrong. I've never
priest-
manipulated
priest of
anyone in my
Rome.
life.
What domain?
Kazam.
What?
Kazam.
Shazam.
That's not a domain I'm familiar with.
Shack.
I don't know very many domains that worship small buildings.
I asked about it earlier today. Listen, if I say it, it'll ruin everything.
Oh. Oh. I don't know much about that.
Oh, good.
I know about their followers. Their followers are a pain in my butt.
Yeah. I assume you get along very well with
right in the middle.
I mean, I get along decently with. I get along well enough. The problem is if somebody is kind of,
Didn't like that.
I guess, if there's anybody that ever kind of like tries to prevent me from doing what I do, then I have a problem with them. But it's not like I hate you, we'll never work, talk or have conversation, that kind of thing. Like I'm totally willing to have small talk, but
Do you
that's
just
kind
ask
of just
them?
me as general.
Do you just ask them yes or no questions and then just accept the other one?
That's a good idea.
Well, don't use it here. That's a secret mostly. To the rest of the party.
Would you say you're an honest man?
Of course.
She just starts laughing at him.
I have to be.
Never has been.
No.
That's right, I've
Oh,
never been a
gosh.
has-been. Only a king. Yeah.
You can't even say it with a straight face.
Right.
Oh,
That's part of my trickery. What did you say?
Is that
No.
What?
Green.
The what?
What?
Stop answering. I'm gonna mute
I don't know
myself.
what you're talking about.
Good night. I'm going to bed now. Thanks for the trick coffee.
You're welcome, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
So no foolish game.
No foolish game.
No
Jig is
foolish
up.
game.
She can read my mind.
No, I just know when he's not being
Yeah, well,
truthful.
50-50,
It's
you're pretty much
basically
gonna get
reading
every,
his
it's basically, yeah. My tricks. Just let me be me.
Time out. How awesome would that be as a fucking superpower? You always know when someone's lying at you. Oh my god.
Pretty good.
That's
Especially if someone's
incredible.
a pathological liar.
No one will ever give you a surprise birthday party ever again.
Unless you don't
Surprise,
ask.
Oh, wow.
That's true. Oh wow, no, there's something happening. Okay, well, good night. What? Do you want me to keep calling you Rachel?
No. Call me King Wenceslas.
Do you want me to call you King Wenceslas?
Yeah. Squire, come on. Iggy, Twiggy, Iggy Pop.
I'll take it.
Miss Twiggy?
Twiggy, what's going on? What happened? What happened to your fealty?
My what?
Your fealty to the clan.
I'm sorry.
It went away a long time ago.
What do you mean? We've only known each other for like 2 days.
It's gone.
Are you talking about this group or your old group?
Must be the old group. Cause I'm the king.
Suppose it's what you'll find out. I just like chug the rest of my milk and
It's
stick
been a
it towards the
disappointing day
room.
for me. Yeah, we both just like
Well, I'm gonna go speak with the guard about
The dog. Go sit
Snake
talk to a man
thoroughbred.
about a dog. Never mind.
about Sturgis Thoroughbred, Cotty Slaker. I'm assuming that was a character. I don't know.
No, the colloquialism.
Yeah,
Go
it's about
talk to a
dog.
man about a dog.
Or a man about horse, that too.
Yeah. Talk to me about what's that movie?
I'm so
No. Goodwill
Die
Hunting.
Hard?
Yeah.
No, that's not one of them.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Go on.
Anyway, so I'm gonna go speak with the guard about Sturgis Thoroughbred, and I wish the rest of you a good night.
See you later, Fletch.
It was a pleasure. Ah, is that a lie? Tell me.
Come on, Toes, let's go.
There's a little bit of pleasure
I'm gonna go upstairs now.
You're like 50-50 on that.
Yeah.
Wink.
Get her out of here.
Wink.
Wink?
You.
Hides it.
Wink. Hang on. Hold that thought.
Oh dear.
What a way to flirt.
Stop Oh, shit.
One of the
Super
straight
stupid.
definitions I have.
Are you? No.
So-
Okay. You're just like,
so much overart.
It's just like a hero with spider.
Not
So
like that.
acceptable. I can't do it.
It like shows you a URL. It's like
Oh,
666. You're like,
Well, you were asking what G59 is. It's the
Yeah, I
How long
definitely
is that
left
book?
before
The
all that
Suicide
happened.
Boys gang or whatever. Yeah, G59 is still the grave.
actually no G5. I think it's like a clothing brand. So their slogan is "Fuck the population."
G4.
That sad channel that slipped into obscurity.
What a day.
What a time to be alive.
Let me try.
You got a major third going on.
Yep.
We got a root, major third, and a dominant seventh.
Alright. I think I will call that the end of the session.
We can do Jaws.
Damn it, I have to prep everything around.
We
so
need
we
a-
can
You
tell
go
them.
first.
Because it's like, how do, it's like tricking me up because I'm like,
a minor second.
fuck, but I need to lie. And I was like, but I can't because it's the truth thing.
Because she'll just look at me and fucking know.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Fun for
close.
everything. It's alright though. I have a plan. The quote unquote hooking up has not been just a ruse.
What? Just out of character.
I got other plans as far as like trustworthiness and stuff like that. So I'm just like, as much as like I'm investigating her as she's investigating us, basically.
It's like a what?
Tactic two.
Sounds like a
Oh, she's
trouble.
probably so yeah. Everything about her seems pretty legit. So I'm just like,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah. So I'm just
You're
like, are you then? I'm like, sounds like she is. And I'm like,
Shit.
well, I have to be skeptical because that's the whole reason I did all of this.
How long can you hold your breath for?
I'm just trying to be skeptical.
I have to be. I have to
I'm pretty
double
sure I
down.
can exhale longer than I can hold.
Well, I mean, if it helps you,
I cannot.
being skeptical is not
That makes
necessarily a
sense.
bad thing,
I
because
got really good at it as a kid.
this is supposed to be
Holding
Scooby
your
Doo.
breath,
Yeah,
exhale.
exactly. That's why I was like, first character in, like,
Two
supposed to
minutes.
like trust her. I was like, we got to start
Almost,
asking
yeah,
Why?
questions.
I
Why
did.
do
We're
you
2
hold
minutes
your
left.
Well, this is like the
A lot.
In case I ever had to.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then.
That's what I was asking about.
This is the fourth.
No.
one of them hasn't been named.
Fame or
There's what?
No, I just
Met
thought it was
Sturgis
cool.
at
I
the
was like,
gate.
yeah, look at
There's
that.
The
I've
guards
been hidden in this water for a long time.
Loki talking about his dark past.
Yeah. That's actually the fun.
I like that guy. He's fun. And then there's
I also
Feanor.
practiced
And then
going
there's
through the
Dora.
tunnels.
As far as like
I can make it
named,
like
actually that's
halfway
not
through
true.
Eisenhower.
She's like 6. Oh my god. Man, I'm good at world building. Yay me. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. I just realized there's like a shit ton of NPCs that you just kind of casually ran into. That's so great.
That's tight.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, Tree Boy. It was pretty good,
Makes
yeah.
one
Boy.
minute.
I like this.
There's
This
the
new
10-year-old, there's the 20-something that were in like the
What's my
thing.
laptop is slow
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
In the
This says
castle.
It's still 10:02.
I like this new town.
And it's 10:02 and
There's a lot
I
going
started.
on in it. It's really
Yeah,
getting
well,
ready.
Garen's
Wait,
wild,
no,
where you guys
wait.
came from was
Go!
really
Oh, you
small.
lasted a
Like,
second.
there's maybe 4 or 5 guards total. And that's
I
assuming
played the
everyone's
cover
all
from
on
last
duty
time.
at the same time.
Nick, the what?
Alright, time me.
What's our XP?
EXP, I forgot about EXP.
Okay, are you ready?
Almost.
Alright. Grayson, I responded to you, and then, Grayson. I think the biggest thing is
Just don't pass out, okay?
let's do this.
I got 30 seconds.
Just holding your breath. How many times
No,
was that?
for exhaling. No, I was holding my breath. Oh. Oh my god, hold on, I already counted.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do 23 for the
Okay,
three
that's
of
it.
you, and then
Alright, you have
Grayson, you
67
get
seconds.
20 flat.
25?
20 flat.
Flat.
What about everybody else?
23 for everybody else.
23.
Yeah.
You're sleeping.
This is kind of the
Oh,
way the
yeah, I
groundwork,
was-
so there's not a lot of
I was about to- I
XP
missed all the
this
cool shit.
session.
It's true. Sorry, what were you
But
explaining?
things from this session
No, I
are
got it.
pretty important
I got
going
some of it.
forward.
I mean,
The
like,
majority of it.
if
as
that
far
makes
as, like,
sense.
well,
Because
yeah,
it's supposed to be Scooby
your
Doo,
character
the
doesn't
more
have
like
points.
dots
Yeah,
you
I
can
got
kind
you.
of connect,
That's true.
the more XP you can get. I guess is what I would
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right now, this is just kind of low-key info dumping. Here's the town. Here's stuff that is happening. Here's rumors of the past. Here's rumors right now.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how people kind of operate.
Okay.
I can't edit my sheet.
Are you logged in?
Yeah, but it won't even like let me type. in the boxes.
I don't
Hold on,
know.
hold on,
Mobile
let's
is
see.
kind of weird. I'm gonna
I
say
got
right into the
cookies.
camera.